Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 137 of Shacknews Presents Pop Goes the Culture. I'm Donovan Erskine, news editor here at Shacknews, and I'm joined, as always, by Greg Burke, our head of video. Greg, happy Thursday for you.
Yeah, good Thursday. Good week. Good week.
Last Thursday of July. Yeah, I believe, because the last day of the month is a Wednesday.
Which is
August 1st
weird
will be a
because, like,
Thursday.
since the pandemic, this will be the first. This is like the second time I don't think I've covered Comic Con. I was there every year since 09.
It is. Yeah, it is weird now seeing like posts go up about it and people being like, "I'm here to cover," and then we're just not there this year. We're taking the Comic Con off. I mean, it doesn't seem. It's crazy to think about at this point. Comic Con has become like the 9th, 10th most important event like annually. It used to be like the place to get all your news in entertainment. Now it feels like all that stuff happens everywhere
Yeah,
else.
there's been this could be our cold open. There's been talks about it for like the last several years about how it's lost what it was and doesn't know what it is anymore. And I've been the one who I've gone since 07. 07 was my first one. Oh wait, no. I was in high school, so it was 02 was my first one. And then I think at 07, 08, I started to go every year. And it has. And like it basically has. It's become like a billboard. Like there's a lot of things there. If you go to Comic-Con, you're like, why is that there? Like, why is a comedy drama like that has nothing to do with comics, nerd culture?
It's just entertainment con.
Yeah, it's entertainment con
pretty
now,
much.
right? That's what it's come. But like most of the stuff now is outdoors. Like the only reason you need a ticket is to buy things and do the panels. There are so many activations outside of the convention. You don't even need to go. You just walk around. But it's still like ridiculous. Like hotels are $1,000 a night if you want to stay in downtown minimum. All the food prices go up during that week. Companies make custom menus. It brings in so much money to the city, and they depend on that money. That's why they don't want to lose it, because it's a huge influx of people coming to San Diego to spend tourist dollars. It affects businesses if it gets shut down. So they've been fighting for it for years. I mean, it's if you've never been, have you ever been to SDCC?
Never been to San Diego Comic Con. It's still on my bucket list. I want to go.
You went to the New York one though.
I've done New York Comic Con like 8 times.
Yeah.
Never done San Diego Comic Con, but I would like to. But you're right. I mean, every year, because Comic Con's always in July. Every now and then it falls like on my birthday. Because my birthday is July 21st, and they like every year it'll be in like February. Greg, I'll start seeing all the tweets of like the entertainment reporters I follow being like, "We're in queue for our Comic Con hotels." Like people are like virtually waiting hours 6-7 months ahead of time just to buy a hotel. It's not even free. They're just to spend like $800
to
a night
get on a list to buy a hotel.
Yeah, just to buy an price hotel. So yeah, Comic Con is a beast, but I'm sure it's a bit of a weight off your shoulders to not be there right now running around.
It is. I do miss it though. It is a cool, like you said, it is a
stuff.
cool atmosphere. It is a cool atmosphere to walk around. Just walking around is just cool. Like just being able to walk around.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe next year I'll finagle my way over to San Diego for that. But despite us not being a San Diego Comic Con, there's no shortage of news this week and last week, because this is our first show in a couple of weeks, because I was traveling last week. Yeah, I was on assignment in good old Canada. I was in no, I wasn't in Toronto. I flew into Toronto, but I was in London, Ontario, which I was attending Warframe TennoCon, which is the annual Warframe event in London. It was nice. I saw Bill Lavoie for the first time in 6 years
That's a
because he's
big deal because
he's a
you work
Canadian
with them
now.
every day. So like that's really
Yeah.
that's the funny thing is that like you work with someone every day, you never see them in person.
Mhm. Yeah, so I was like, "Hey, man, I hope it's not another 6 years before I see you again." But, yeah, that was fun. You can see all the content from there up on Shack News YouTube and just shacknews.com slash what, like, topic slash warframe.
Something
But
like that, yeah. Did you get a hockey puck, maple syrup, and poutine?
I
Poutine.
had poutine, which was great. Uh, I forget the name of someone's smokehouse. I ordered on Uber Eats. They had poutine, which was delicious. It was great. I should have got more, honestly, looking back at it. Uh, I didn't get maple syrup hockey pucks, but in the
Mhm.
little goodie bag that Digital Extremes gave us, we had these little hard candies that were leaf shaped, and they were like little maple, like brown maple
That's
syrup
cute.
candies. They were like hard
That's
candies.
cute.
So I had those. They were pretty good. Got to visit the Digital Extremes office, which is inside of a shopping mall. So
That's
that was
interesting. That's definitely
it
interesting.
was it was very interesting. I mean, it's a great office space. They have a lot of real estate in there. I was like, "That's very bizarre, that it's just inside of a shopping mall." It's like a movie theater upstairs and whatnot. Yeah, it was a good time, good experience. I tagged in for TJ because he usually covers that event for us, but
Yeah.
he was at EVO 2024, which is I talk about my bucket list of places to go or events to attend. San Diego Comic-Con's up there. EVO climbs that list every year. I mean, that seems like one of the most exciting events, probably the coolest esport event that happens annually, at least in the United States.
Have you ever been to
So,
Vegas?
yeah. I went to Vegas in 2022 for funny, it wasn't Evo, but it was another fighting event. It was a Red Bull Kumite when Red Bull Esports was putting on their events. They had it was like Street Fighter was there. This was a couple years ago. So this was before Tekken 8. This was before Mortal Kombat 1. Before Street Fighter 6, I think. There was still been SF5 back then. But it's funny, Punk, who won Evo this year, he's the first American to win Street Fighter at Evo. He was there at Rebel Kumite, and he was playing the same character. He's a big Cammy guy. And I don't think he won Rebel Kumite, but I remember watching him there and him having a decent run there as well. So it was cool to watch him finish his story, to borrow a WWE phrase. But with all that, Greg, we've got a very fascinating topic to lead our show today
We
because we've
do.
talked about movies, we mentioned video games. This story is really right at the intersection of video games and movies because SAG-AFTRA video game workers are going on strike. It's almost a bit of a deja vu moment because it's been about a year and 2 months since the infamous writer strike started. I should say infamous. The famous writer strike started in Hollywood, and then the actor strike was right behind it, and that eventually got resolved last fall. And now we have the video game actors going on strike. This has been bubbling for a little bit. Been a couple months of negotiations. You actually got a press release from SAG-AFTRA about this just mere minutes before we went live. So I'm going to go ahead and read through some of this right now. SAG-AFTRA National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland, acting under the authority delegated by the SAG-AFTRA National Board and with the unanimous advice of the Council of the Interactive Media Agreement Negotiating Committee, that's a mouthful of words, called a strike on the Interactive Media Agreement effective July 26th, that's tomorrow, at 12:01 a.m. So when the clock strikes 12, it's officially Jover. Today's vote to strike comes after more than a year and a half of negotiations without a deal. I'm going to come down here and grab an actual quote. The video game industry generates billions of dollars in profit annually. The driving force behind that success is the creative people who design and create those games. That includes the SAG-AFTRA members who bring memorable and beloved game characters to life, and they deserve and demand the same fundamental protections as performers in film, television, streaming, and music. Fair compensation and the right of informed consent for the AI use of their faces, voices, and bodies. Frankly, it's stunning that these video game studios haven't learned anything from the lessons of last year. That's in reference to the strikes in Hollywood. Uh, that our members can wait and will stand up and demand fair and equitable treatment with respect to AI, and the public supports us in that, said Duncan Crabtree, Ireland, who's the executive director at SAG-AFTRA. So that didn't spell it out for the folks listening. We're talking about voice actors. These are the performers in video games. These are your Neil Newbins of the world, the people behind the characters you love. in these video games who have been trying to get a union deal done for themselves over the past couple of years and haven't been able to. So, Greg, they're going on strike. Get ready for some silent protagonists.
No, you're right. It's incredible today. Like this morning, I downloaded a mobile game, and there was AI voiceover in the mobile game. Like
Whoopee.
you can just
Yeah.
tell it is just because of the inflect. Like I mean, I don't know if whether AI gets there or not eventually is up to debate. Like I have no idea how far it is. I'm not an engineer, but like you can tell because it has problems with like inflection, right? Like it can't really do inflection. It can't, it can do questions, it can do exclamation points, but it has probably trouble that you're like, oh, this is AI. Because the bottom line is they don't want to pay money. They don't want to pay money for a voiceover to come in and do it.
It's cheaper.
Yep, it's just cheaper, and
Yeah.
that's bad. I mean, like when I did my stint in LA, like the amount of clients I would lose out just because they were slightly cheaper than me. That's just what it is. Like it's bottom
Yeah.
line stuff, which is obnoxious.
Mhm.
I'm happy that they're doing it. There's been a lot of video game developers this week that have also like formed a union. But as someone who's worked in that space, like outside of entertainment, like in a construction union, like you have like you can form a union all you want, whether or not they can they recognize it, and whether or not they can classify their games as union games gets tricky. It's a juggling act, right? It's
Mhm.
cat and mouse consistently, right? It's they get a head up, companies get a head up, they get a head up, and it's just back and forth. The
Yeah.
unfortunate thing is that the companies have millions, sometimes billions of dollars of money to spend to fight it, and the unions don't. They don't have that same like that same advantage. They don't have money. They can drag it in court forever. That kind of stuff. They can't hide behind legalities and teams of lawyers. Like they don't have that same, which is unfortunate because like it's supposed to be this. We're supposed to live in a country where like you're all supposed to be equal in a court of law, but like it's not equal because people have more money, have better lawyers. People sometimes win cases that they should have lost because they just had more money. I don't know. I mean, AI is it's we don't talk about it on the show too much. We see different perspectives on it. You think it'll go away? I think it's just going to get worse.
I
Uh,
don't think it'll go away. I just don't think it's gonna end all of our jobs. I think that we'll survive.
yeah, well, it'll go on. I just think it'll be like smaller. Like instead of having 10 artists on your team, you'll
Mhm.
have two. You know what I mean? Like it just reduces things. I look a lot like a lot of my shorts are animation based, and I look at the shorts feed, and like I get a lot of history stuff on the Disney. Like Disney used to have their entire ink department was like hundreds of people that would mix paints and like physically paint cells of animation and turn them in one at a time. Right? That's incredible. But like when you think about how the digital age increases, that 100 people team goes to like 20. Right? Like it gets
Yeah.
easier as the tools get easier to understand and increase the pace of how the work is done. You need less people. I think that's the thing I'm worried about is you need less people to draw. Like, and writing and drawing is at the forefront of this, right? With voice work right behind it, right? It's voice work, artists, and writers. Like those are the things AI can like jankily hop through right now, right? The more complicated it gets, the worse it gets. But like everyone's dipped in it. The Fallout show dipped in it in marketing materials. People forgot that when that show came out. Remember they did like a
I do remember
marketing
you guys
material on it. Like that was a
had
job
a couple
taken away
like
from an
images.
artist. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I hope that they win. I hope that they come to an agreement. I guess it's not even winning. It's just coming to an agreement. Really, that's what it is. Like,
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a victory. It's a form of victory for sure. Um, and I think you're right about like the studios and stuff having all the money, but I think what the unions have, their leverage is their labor. That's why they're
yeah,
striking, right? That is their advantage is that like we live in a world now where there are video game actors who are not as big as like a Tom Cruise or The Rock, but like if you play video games and you're into video games, you probably know who Troy Baker is, or who Laura Bailey is, or who Ashley Johnson is. Or now if you play Baldur's Gate 3, Jennifer English is Shadowheart, or Neil Newman is Asterion. Like there are people now who, when they're in games, like there are people who are like, "Oh, I'm interested in that game now," or "I might want to play that game now, or buy it, or get a demo or whatnot." So when you have those people, who I assume, I mean, obviously this just broke within the last couple of hours, so I doubt that they have like statements or whatnot right now. But when those people come out and start saying things like, "Hey, they can't make the next big, massive 120-hour GR or RPG because the actors you love, aren't being compensated properly." And to speak to the AI of it all, what I think is interesting is that it seems like specifically what these studios wanna do is not, like, use AI and just not bring in voice actors at all. They wanna bring them in and then just have the right to do whatever with their voices in AI, you know? So that's I don't want to say Baldur's Gate because Larian is an independent studio. They're an example, or I don't think they're a good example of this. I don't think they would do such a thing. But I don't know, like an EA or a Sony or whoever could theoretically just be like, oh, all right, well we've got all the VO Troy Baker did for Joel in The Last of Us. In 20 years, we want to make a young Joel video game. If we don't want to pay him whatever he costs in 20 years, we'll just do an AI version of his voice and pitch him down a little bit. I guess pitch him up if he's younger, and make Kid Joel the video game, and we don't have to pay him shit because we have the rights to his likeness. I think that the idea is the actors in the union above them are just trying to secure one control over that, and then the power to be compensated for that. Because I remember, Greg, when we were reading the terms of the Hollywood actor strike deal, it the deal didn't like ban studios from using AI. That wasn't like the resolution was like AI is now banned in Hollywood, but it was one, we're consenting to it, and when you do it, we're getting money for it. We're going to get a percentage or whatever every time you decide to use an AI version of a certain person if they consent to it in the first place or sign on to it. So that's probably where this is heading. I don't think that we're going to get a deal that's like AI voice is now banned in video games, but there'll probably be a more nuanced resolution to it. But I think to the point here that SAG after lays out, where they're like, it's a bit like stunning that the game studios don't look at what just happened over like 8 months in Hollywood last year and don't think like, let's just avoid strike and get a deal done. Because at the end of the day, like the strikes in Hollywood lasted for like 6, 7 months. A bunch of projects got delayed and canceled. And then they ended up just like coming to a deal anyway. And it's like you could have done that 4 or 5 months earlier. You would have had more projects for your shitty streaming services. And you just would have like avoided half a year of bad press and everybody who likes movies and TVs calling you like selfish assholes, you know? Where it's like if you're a video game studio, it's like why even subject yourself to this? Would you know what the likely outcome is here? You're not going to ban voice actors or just stop using voice actors for all games across all studios. Um, Now, there is like the indie side of this, where similar to movies, where I remember during the actor strike, like A24 was working on stuff because they had deals with actors. I'm sure the like Alarian Studios will make deals with actors and whatnot, but the big dogs, your ZeniMax's, whoever Disney's licensed and shit to, PlayStation Studios, Rockstar, Take Two. I would imagine most of them, if not all of them, are tied up into this. So now, what comes next to me is what projects stop recording VO, right? Like what projects are right now in the middle of VO that are going to stop? GTA 6, who knows? Is that game still recording voiceover right now? Um, so those are the stories I'm going to be curious to hear about over the next days and weeks.
It's funny too because when we covered this like a couple of years ago, like we talked about, and like there was they won something, they won that case, but I'd said again, it was when those cases are won in that certain area, I feel like it's the Troy Bakers that win. Like, and Troy Baker's a huge, talented voice artist, right? He's one of the biggest voice artists in the world, but he has that power to influence, right? To get what he needs to do. Uh, but it's a gig at the end of the day. It's a gig job. It's you have to have your reel out, you have to audition, then you get your whatever scale is, I think it's like 275 an hour, so they get you in and out. And I've been to those voiceover sections for the Batman. Like they get the actors in and out as fast as humanly possible because because they're paid by the hour, not by the line, not a flat rate, by the hour. They legally have to, and usually in those cases if they're part of the union, so they get them out super quickly, super fast. Like I'm talking about, like you get like an episode or three in like an hour and a half. Like they go through them super quickly, and that's part of the voice director's job too, is to make sure that they don't dilly dally, because there's budgets. Budgets do exist even for multi-billion-dollar corporations. But like at the same time, I feel like whenever the union wins, only the top people in that union benefit. And like, hey, maybe one day you'll join the union and you'll benefit from it too. But like, I think it was the actors union when we saw like what was the number? I can't search because I have the thing on, but there was a number that they said they represented in the actors union, and it was like extremely low for how many actors there probably are in the United States. And I feel like it's a win for the union, but it's only a win for the top people in the union that book union gigs to begin with. And if you're a gig worker starting out, it doesn't do anything for you. Now, eventually, the counter argument is that one day might be in the union and it will help you. But I mean, I'm not even sure how like union gigs work in video games, because like they're not sanctioned. It's not like a construction company where like if you do work for the county or the state, like it's usually you have to abide by these rules, have to use this union, have to use this labor force. Like there are rules to help the unions, and you have to pluck from this thing. And In video games, I don't think there's anything like for developers, for coders, for engineers, for voice actors that like say you have to use someone from the union. Right now, I don't think, right? There's
I
none
would
of that.
imagine there has to be, because I would assume if it's SAG-AFTRA, it's similar to movies, where, like, if you're an up-and-coming actor and you,
Mhm.
like, I don't know, send an audition into Warner Brothers for a movie, and they're like, "Hey, we wanna bring you in," you gotta join SAG. The Warner Brothers isn't just gonna bring you in and just have, like, a random person be in there. They're gonna be like, "Alright, time to go down to the SAG-AFTRA office in downtown and get your SAG card, to join the union." I would imagine it's the same for, VO. If I was to audition for, Divinity Original Sin 3, and then they brought me in, they'd be like, "All right, well, you got to get your SAG card to be a part of this thing." Now, I mean, if you and I made a video game, we probably wouldn't have SAG after people in there.
Yeah,
But
but I think that's the case in point that like where it gets kind of complicated is that like, well, how do you like establish what is allowed to be indie and not, right? Like it's if it's a Blizzard game, like because companies will find like little things in contract works all the time to avoid being to pay wages for and to anybody except for themselves. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. But it's frustrating because like Bethesda's a huge gaming studio now. Like, do they have to use union workers when they make a gig? Like, if it comes in and
well,
they need
Bethesda
a
just
concept
they just
artist.
unionize them themselves. At least Bethesda Game Studios. I should also clarify um, that we have the list of the companies in here. Uh, we've got Activision, Blind Light, Disney Character Voices, Electronic Arts, Epic Games, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac Games, Take-Two Productions, VoiceWorks Productions, and WB Games. Those are the 10 companies, like, involved in all this. There's, like, 2 or 3 of those I don't really recognize, but obviously Activision, massive, Call of Duty, Crash Bandicoot, all that good stuff. Disney is everywhere. EA, they just announced a bunch of stuff. Literally, I just wrote the guide this morning for all the voice actors in the new Dragon Age game. Now, all the voice work in the new Dragon Age is probably done because the game comes out this fall. But still, by the rules of the strike, they wouldn't be able to promote it or do any press for it. Insomniac Games, Spider-Man. We know that they're working on that Wolverine game. That thing's probably far from the finish line. Take Two Productions. Hey, if you don't know, Take Two owns Rockstar Games, so connect the dots on that one. WB Games, obviously, all the Batman, Superman stuff, but also Mortal Kombat, Injustice. Uh, yeah, so
My
that is an interesting pickle.
my thing, just to play devil's advocate, because I mean, I'm not saying I agree with this situation, but like, how do you stop these companies from just okay, fine? If we want to use, Troy Baker, we have to pay him this. We have to use this person part of the union. We have to pay him this. Okay, we'll just use a new person. Like, what's to stop them from hiring someone who's cheaper and just wants the gig job, right? They say like they
They
don't care
could,
about
but it's
quality, right?
I mean, they could, but it's the same argument as, like, we don't wanna pay Margot Robbie, so let's just get, like, a random other actress. Well, you lose having Margot Robbie in your movie because people know who that is and they like her, and they'll go see things that she's in. I think the same is true for Troy Baker,
Hmm.
right? Sure, if Naughty Dog was like, Last of Us Part 3, we're just gonna recast Joel, there's gonna be a lot of people who are like, "What the hell?" Like, we love Troy Baker. He's the iconic voice performance. He's won awards for that role. He's iconic in that role. So that's what you would lose is one, it's just bad press. Your audience is gonna turn on you. Now, I mean, people are still gonna buy the game, I'm sure, but you will have to deal with the fallout of that.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be the downside there. Plus, I mean, I imagine a lot of those larger actors, they'll be fine. They'll find work elsewhere. But
I can promise you that Troy Baker and like those other big actors don't work for scale. I can guarantee they don't work for scale. Because they don't need
I mean,
to
we
like
don't see the deals.
they don't need to. Yep, they're the name. They're the thing. Right? They've paid their dues. They've made it. Like they have the right to ask for more money than your standard Joe Blow and voice actor. I think that's just how it is. Like and also
We're
like
also
like you said,
in
sales too. Like Troy Baker being attached to a game helps sales. The same
yeah,
thing in movies, right? Like slapping Chris Pratt on a poster helps sales. You know what I mean? Rather than
yeah.
whomever your other putting in there. So it's there's money to be made. And if the thing is, if people are making money off of you, you should be making money as well. That's the argument. And I agree. I agree with that. But it can get out of control very quickly.
Yeah. And, besides, people are in high demand, so I imagine in a lot of cases, it also just becomes like a bidding war for people, right? Where you see like the major actors, they have to like handpick the stuff they want to be in because everyone's trying to throw money
Yeah.
at them to be in
They
stuff.
get to well,
And I
their
imagine,
agent
yeah,
works with them, yeah, and figures out what they want, and they
yeah,
know what their fee
mm,
starts at. You know what I mean? Like if it's $2 million plus 35 back points
Mhm,
on it or 10 cents for every copy sold. Like they're like it just gets crazier the higher you go to the top. And
mhm.
that's just how the industry works. That's why I used to like video games when like big AAA actors were involved in them, because with before they unionized it and stuff, like they would just a lot of them just wanted to be involved because they liked the project, right? They'd get involved because they enjoy that project, they like that franchise or
Yeah, they'd be
whatever,
in a
right?
VO booth for one day and then
Yeah,
just never think of it
yeah,
again.
yeah, and they'll do it for
Mm,
practically nothing in
mhm.
comparison. So I mean those days are probably still here, you know what I mean? But it definitely is
I
like
mean,
the video.
actors still do a lot of projects for cheaper payouts. It's what they care about. I mean, I mentioned Neil Newbin, who was in Baldur's Gate 3 as Astarion. If anyone's price just went up over the last year, it was
It's
him.
his.
You know what
It's
he's in?
definitely
You know
his.
what he's in that just came out is the Fallout 4 London mod. Which no disrespect to the people who work on that. I know they've been working on that mod for years, and I'm sure it's awesome. It just came out today. But that could not have been the massive cash out, go to the bank payday for Neil Newbin. But I'm sure he just probably likes Fallout, or he thought the damn project was really cool, you know? Or even I think yesterday they released the trailer. They're making a Bob Dylan biopic with Timothy Chalamet in it, who was just Paul Atreides in Dune Part Two, and is going to be in the next one. I doubt that he got Dune money to do the Bob Dylan biopic, but he probably likes Bob Dylan or thinks it's a fascinating story,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
he's
Reads the script,
passionate about.
takes the hit every now
So
and then, like.
mm, yeah, so I think it's important to. I mean, there's definitely still a creative angle to all of this at the end of the day, but we care about video games quite a bit here at Shack News. It's our entire lifestyle. So I am rooting for the voice actors on strike here, and I look forward to seeing them get a deal. Now, Greg, our original story number one is really a conclusion to a story we've already been following because Inside Out 2 is now the highest grossing animated movie of all time. That's the end of that sentence. There's no like asterisk on it. It's not the highest grossing Pixar movie. It's not the highest grossing like sequel. Is the highest grossing animated movie ever made as of yesterday because it passed Frozen 2. This movie, Greg, has made $1.46 billion dollars with the B, with the capital B. This is movie's made $1.5 billion. It did a billion in 19 days. Uh, which is insane. We talked a lot about Pixar on the show. It's one of our most
We
talked
do.
about studios. Uh, they have gone through some hardship throughout the pandemic. The quality of their movies up for debate. Financially, much less so up for debate. They haven't done too well over the last few years. They had the like drama with them getting put on Disney Plus, and then you've got Pixar animators speaking out and being like, "That's not what Disney told us was going to happen," and we feel like we're being set up for a failure.
They did layoffs. They
Uh,
better hire everyone back after this.
they laid
That's all I
off.
have to say. If they don't hire everyone back to lay it off, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath for that, unfortunately.
Right?
I
Yeah.
think that is probably not gonna happen. But yeah, you're right. They just laid off like a quarter of the studio, like a month before this movie came out. Um, and yeah, we talked about this leading up to like this movie needs to do really well for Pixar. I don't think that they were about to get like shut down, but they were definitely trending in a very negative direction before this movie came out. And it's now past Frozen 2, which Frozen 2, I mean, you don't remember what Frozen Fever was like and is like because they're gonna make another Frozen movie. For Inside Out 2 to outgross that movie, it's pretty remarkable. Even the Mario Brothers movie last year, which did 1.2 billion, I think, even for Inside Out 2 to overcome that, which, you think of like Peaches and all the memes from the Mario movie. I feel like we're talking about that thing for half the year. Uh, so for Inside Out 2 to just come out in about a month's time, just clean house. Just absolutely barnacles. But I mean, good for the folks involved in this. I do want to read. There's a very brief statement from I believe it was the director, Kelsey Mann, and Mark Nielsen. We're absolutely blown away by all the love for Inside Out 2 from around the world. Thank you for joining us in this incredible emotional roller coaster, and it's like artwork of all the characters around the number one.
I mean,
So there you go.
like it's funny too because what do you contribute to success? Like what? Like it wasn't like it was the same cast as the first one, right? And I wouldn't argue to say like the cast list is like Chris Pratt level voice cast, right? Like there's a lot of variety in the voice cast. And like
Mhm.
what do you contribute to it, right? Because like I feel like so many movies are produced and start off as like an algorithm of X Y equals opening box office genre plus cast plus date equals this, right? And but
Mhm.
I feel like this is one of those things where like it was just right time, right place, good movie. You know what I mean? Like all three, right time, right place, good movie, and like it just made a lot of money because we talked about the show a couple weeks ago too. Like it's a relatable movie. Everyone has emotions. It's a coming of age story. It's a classic type of story people enjoy, and just like
Mhm.
what
Yep.
there you cannot replicate this. Like people want to. Like the goal is to try, and God knows Disney has tried to like replicate it in some way to get it, but like you can't. I don't think you can expect a success like this. I don't think you can just you can have estimates, sure, you can have like what you're ballparking for, but like you cannot expect a movie to do almost $1.5 billion in its theoretical run. It's just lightning in a bottle again. There's nothing we say on the show all the time. I haven't seen it yet. I was like,
I
cool, we'll wait for Disney Plus, and like, there's rumors it's not coming out to September. So I'm like, great.
Well, yeah, this thing's gonna have a long tail in
Yeah,
theaters. Like I said, it's
yeah,
been in theaters for 1 month. I mean,
yeah.
Kung Fu Panda 4 came out earlier this year, made like $300 million, which is great, don't get me wrong, but that movie was in the theaters for like 2.5 months. I mean, that was up until like May that they were still screening that movie in theaters. This is gonna be in theaters until September. Firmly, because it's making a
Yeah,
shit ton of money and people
yeah,
wanna go pay to see it very clearly. What would I attribute the success to? I
yes.
think there's a few elements, right? I mean, Inside Out, first movie is almost 10 years old. That movie came out 9 years ago. And when it did, it made $858 million in 2015, which is great. That was a shit ton of money. That was already almost a billion-dollar film, and that was an original Pixar IP. It wasn't Toy Story or Monsters, Inc. or Finding Nemo. This was an original idea that made $800 million worldwide. And I think that Inside Out 2, 9 years later, think of the people who were 10, 11 when that movie came out, who are now young adults, you know? This is probably the first Pixar movie that's come out in the last 5 years that was, like, from their childhood, you know? Like, if you knew me in 2013, Greg, when Monsters University came out, I was like, "Oh, shit, I gotta go see that." I was 15 at the time, but I was like, "Oh," like, that was, like, my childhood coming back to life, you know, because Monsters, Inc. came out in '03, I was 5 years old. So, when they got back to that sequel a decade later, I was like, "Oh my god, this is my childhood. I gotta go see this movie." And I wasn't rushing out to see every Pixar movie when I was 15. There are a lot of kids now who are like, "Oh my god, Inside Out's back." I was 6, 7 years old when Inside Out came out, and now I'm 21. I'm or 20 years old or whatever. So I'm sure you probably had a lot of teens who didn't go see Turning Red or Elemental, who were all in to go check out Inside Out too. Um, what else was I gonna say there? Also, sequels, just in general, sequels always do really well. Sequels to successful movies are usually also very successful, but
They can flop
yeah,
sometimes though hard. Like I mean, they can do really bad sometimes occasionally. I mean, Disney sequels especially haven't had the best longevity. If you look at like from the golden era, from like Beauty and the Beast, like they've made 3 Beauty and the Beast sequels. Have you seen those? They've made 3 Little Mermaid sequels. Have you seen those? Like they're not great.
some of them. Mhm. But those are sequels that were made, like, with restricted budgets that were
Yeah.
kind of just, like, crapped out, right? Like, they were set up, I mean, to be blunt, they were set up for failure, right? Like, The Little Mermaid 3 was never gonna make Little Mermaid money because it had 1/16th of the budget, 1/16th of the marketing, and it was released direct to DVD, you know? Like, Inside Out 2 could have just been, like, a straight to Disney Plus, 90-minute, romp or whatever, and it would have done fine, but they very clearly put a lot of resources and care behind it, which for a very long time is exactly what Pixar was known for. Up until like 2020, Pixar was known as having this almost impeccable hot streak spanning nearly 25 years of just masterpieces across genres,
Yeah.
across generations. The only thing they had in common is they were all animated, but they had just like made just on a 2 to 3 year churn, just masterpiece, masterpiece, masterpiece. And again, it wasn't until like 2020, 2021 when you get into like the Turning Reds, the Lucas, the Elementals that people start to be like, these aren't that great. And then you see the box office start to flounder. So I said it when I reviewed it, but Inside Out 2 is just like, that's just classic Pixar, baby. Like, it's a great movie. I mean, it's not my favorite movie of the year. It's probably in my top 10 right now, but it's just a great open shut Pixar movie. It's got the heavy emotional themes. Riley's back, our protagonist. She's a very endearing character. All the emotions are great. We get some new ones in there. You got Maya Hawke from Stranger Things. You like Robin in that show. She's anxiety in this now. Iowa Debris from The Bear. Her star is rising. She's in here as what is she? Envy or no? She's not Envy. Uh, Something, some sort of variation of jealousy or
The little
sadness or
cute
whatever.
one, right? The
But
little one with the crazy eyes. She's like super short.
yeah, yep, yeah, yeah, that's her. So yeah, great movie combined with great marketing and a beloved IP and nostalgia. That is your recipe for $1 billion for
Also
sure.
think, I mean, I think the key factor in this whole movie, we said this before too in its opening weekend, is just relatability. I mean, it's one of the reasons Spider-Man, whether it's Peter Parker or Miles, is like one of the most popular superheroes
Yeah,
on the planet. It's the relatability of like Spider-Man has a
yeah,
job. Miles Morales has school. Like they have
mhm,
responsibilities that most people in America have. Like Batman's cool, but like he's not relatable. Like he's a multi-billionaire that fights. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't do any. Like he just everything's kind of set up for him. Superman is
yeah,
arguably similar, but like because he has a job, but he's also Superman. He's invulnerable, so you can't really hurt him. But Spider-Man's vulnerable. Like you know what I mean? He's trying to juggle all these things, and this same thing is everyone has emotions, problems, dealing with teenagers or being a teenager and going through life and growing up. We've all experienced this, and I think it's the more a movie's relatable to an audience, I think, is what makes it successful, or it plays a big
mhm,
part of it. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, these, and you can always have your Hollywood blockbuster. That's fine. What's relatable about Deadpool Wolverine? Probably nothing. You know what I mean? It's a popcorn movie. That's what it's there for. And I feel like, but Lightyear was the same way. Like, what am I related? Like, how can I relate to any of these characters in this movie? And like, I didn't relate to anybody in the movie. Still an enjoyable movie, sure, but like, it didn't. There was no relatability there. It was entertainment. If you can hit
mhm,
that relatability and it's not doesn't feel forced, I mean, I think it's just great. Everyone has these and also it's also fun to see how much they were caught off guard by it because usually my wife has been looking for Funko Pops for the emotions because they introduced new emotions. She
so,
she wants
yeah,
she wants all the emotions. She's a therapist. She looks for all the emotions, and like they don't exist. So they did not think it was gonna do well. You can always tell. Same thing with the original Pirates in '03, the first one. Thought the movie was going to be terrible. There was nothing at the release. There was no bed sheets, no blankets, no action figures, no toys, no nothing. And then the second movie comes out and it's everywhere. You can always, the hindsight for merchandising shows you how much faith the studio had in the movie, and there's nothing for Inside Out. They're probably making it now, but like there should have been a toy line, 2 months before this movie came out if they thought it was going to be a massive success like this, and there wasn't. So they're scrambling to make, I'm sure, toys and Funko Pops and all that stuff because we haven't been able to find them at all. And Nicole really wants them. We really want to see the movie, but we can't. For those of you out there, our theater sucks. So we have one theater within a 60-mile radius. So like it's the only we can go to, and we won't go there anymore.
Jesus
So
Christ, 60 miles. Good
Santa Rosa,
lord,
baby,
60
that's
miles.
the closest theater that we can go to. It's the closest
Classic.
Target too.
Oh man, I have to live within at least a few miles of a
It's
Target,
okay.
or
We
else
have a
I'll have
Walmart, and you're
hard
like, oh
withdrawals.
god, well, we have to go to Walmart. It's just ugh. Like,
Oh boy,
but
yeah,
yeah,
I don't
I
envy
want to
that,
see it.
man.
You saw it. Would you see it again with
Sure. I
with
mean, I
your
wouldn't go
brother?
like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go to the theater to watch it again, but if it was like on at the house or something, I'd put it on again. I watch it. Pixar movies have a timelessness to them, a rewatchability factor. That's pretty solid. Um, Speaking of rewatchability factor and things that people care a lot about, Greg, we're about to get into what might be the most consequential news story in the history of pop culture, and one that I expect you to be over the moon with enthusiasm for. Because yesterday, I read a headline, Greg. Actually, no, a headline was read to me by one and only Asif Khan, who, when he said it, I was like, "Oh no, that's not real. That's fake." And he was like, "I don't know, man. It looks real." And then he sent me the link, and I read it, Greg, and it said, "Skibidi Toilet film and TV franchise in the works from Michael Bay, Adam Goodman." And I was like, "Well, that's strange. This has got to be fake, right?" And out of season April Fool's joke, and I opened it, and Greg, it's real. They're making Skibidi Toilet film and television adaptations, and not only are they making it, the "they" is Michael Bay, uh, director of movies such as Transformers,
Mhm.
Bad
Bad
Boys,
Boys.
the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, there's a lot to unpack with this one because we have talked on this show a lot over the years about like adapting stories, things that people adapt from the internet. I was very excited when we talked about the back rooms getting greenlit for an adaptation from A24 and how Kane Parsons, who was like the 17-year-old kid who made the YouTube video, was going to direct the movie for A24. And I'm like, man, what an awesome big break to get as a young creative person like that. Um, So I'm usually just like fascinated by this stuff. Skibidi Toilet, Greg, real quick, tell me, are you familiar? Have you heard of this thing? Are you? Have you?
The
Does this ring a
only
bell to you
thing
at
I
all?
know about it is that
Your nephews have to know what this is.
it's Gary's it's a Gary's mod thing, right? It's the only thing I looks like I can pinpoint it. So
It's made using Source, so Source Engine, so pretty. Yeah, it's got that early Gary's mod Counter Strike kind of look to it. Uh, Ask your nephews if they know what this is because they have to. This is commonly referred to, Greg, as like Generation Alpha. It's like their first big internet sensation, I guess, because Gen Alpha is like younger than Gen Z. That's like the kids born like the 2010s in the early 2020s. It's this series of like YouTube shorts, and not like the vertical video YouTube shorts, although I'm sure they're there too, but just like short videos on YouTube that range from like 20 seconds to like 2 minutes long. And they're just these like you said, these CG machinima like creations. And they pretty much just follow like these toilets that have human heads that come out of them, and they fight these radios in the street. Oh, you've pulled one up here. This is brilliant. Um, yeah, it's just this like very cursed, disturbingly animated like war between toilets with human faces and these weird electric uh device people, and they just kind of walk around and do very weird body gestures, and they yell and sing. And that's these videos, and they've gone like uber viral, and I'm talking like double digit millions, hundreds of millions of views on these. It's become like a meme. Skibidy's been a thing on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram Reels, probably not Facebook because young people aren't there anymore. But you know, all the places on the internet, and they're gonna make a movie and TV show out of it. I'm not sure what that'll entail. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what that would look like, other than a 90-minute version of what we're witnessing here, live and in stereo. But yeah, we talk a lot about like having things to adapt, and adapting comic books, and eventually, there's only so many comic books, and then video games, and uh, YouTube YouTube culture has become a thing that's getting adapted now, like these YouTube series and originals. You've kept a very straight face throughout all of this, Greg, which I find very admirable. So I do now go to you to ask, are you gonna buy a ticket to see Michael Bay's Skibidi Toilet movie, or will you watch his Skibidi Toilet series if it's on, I don't know, Max, Netflix, Peacock, Hulu? What's your take on this?
not my thing, but that's because I'm just too old. I'm just I'm just not the target demographic, and that's okay. Like it's art. It's definitely art. Like you can't argue it's art. I mean, it is. It's just because it's not my thing doesn't mean that I think it sucks or whatever. It's just not my thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Slinky Jim describes it as Max Headroom in a toilet, which I think is pretty
yeah,
funny.
yeah. It's definitely weird and out there for sure. Like if I was like 8, I may think it's the funniest thing in the world, and like but that's just the thing. Like I mean, I've worked in marketing, even some of my part-time jobs involve marketing. And I'm not saying I agree with this tactic, but like getting the youth market hooked on something, whether it's a product, a show, or whatever, getting your hooks in them early pays off later
Yeah.
because they have, I mean, I'm just as guilty as anybody else, right? Like
Mhm.
you get me hooked, you get Batman animated series at the perfect time, at the perfect age, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then I'm buying $800 statues. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Yeah.
hindsight of marketing. And I think that now they're realizing that, people who are older don't are more careful with their money, especially now. Like we're just so like, okay, so like now like selling someone to a 40-year-old is a lot more difficult than selling to somebody who's 15. You know what I mean? Like it's a different mindset, right? It's just a different there's maturity, there's education levels, there's a ton of different factors. But as you get older, generally, like your tastes change, you get a little smarter, maybe a little more mature, and like the stuff you used to laugh at, maybe you don't laugh at anymore. And I feel like
Mhm.
this is a really this is the beginning of like the next generation of like statues, right? The next generation of Star Wars, next generation of Batman, and I'm too old to understand it, but like if you and your friends grew up watching it every day for a year, I understand that nostalgia. Like I totally get it, like when was this
Right.
up? When did this series start? Let me see if I can.
Last year. This is not very old. This was the very first like I mean, the person who made this YouTube channel is the fuck boom. Been making videos for the better part of like 8 or 9 years. But Skibidi Toilet began like the beginning of 2023, like February, I think was like the first video to
Yeah, it
get
looks like he
uploaded.
started making videos in 2017. So like, but like, and
Mhm.
if you hit that chord with that youth, and I talk about this all the time, like shareability is a huge thing. If especially with younger kids or even older generations, like if something's funny and you can share it, like that's how you get into billions of views, millions of views. Like you share it, they
Mhm.
share it to friends, they share it to friends. Like you're sharing out of your group to other groups of friends, and it just magnifies. I don't know. I mean, like if the Five Nights at Freddy's was an indication that like the Gen Alpha and Gen Z are now a huge target user base for marketing materials and can make money. That's it's a good generation to start to target, and I think that's what they'll do. Like they'll go see it with 10 of their friends. That's 10 ticket sales. I'm
Mhm.
looking at things more of like a mechanical spreadsheet lately. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older. Um, yeah, it's definitely not my thing. I think it's
Maybe.
definitely I think it's definitely artistic. I always I say autistic all the time on accident, but artistic. It's definitely creative. It's definitely different. It's just not my thing.
Right.
I'm just too old for it. It's one of those things where like now I know how my parents felt when I had Akuna Matata on like loop in the car, you know, or
Yeah.
like or like when Let It Go's on loop on the car for an hour car drive. Like you know, but I totally get that now. I understand that as an adult.
Mhm.
Especially when I go down to see my brother. My brother has a lot of friends that are much younger than I am, and they'll play these songs that I've never heard before on loop, and I'm just like, this is the most obnoxious song I've ever heard, but it's what they enjoy. And so you're just like, and I think it's just a generational divide. I won't see this. I won't pay money to see this. I don't get it. But that doesn't mean that
Yeah.
I think it sucks or it shouldn't make any money. It'll probably do very
Mhm.
well. But you know, for
Yeah.
the target demographic, right? I mean, I'm playing Fortnite with my nephews during the week, and yeah, it's been great. I got my first Victor Royale last night in solo because I was waiting
Hell
for him to get
yes.
on. So I was like, hell yeah. But like, I mean,
They got
I
a
have to.
Magneto skin this season, Greg.
Yeah, I bought they not to get off topic, but they bullied me for weeks about having a bot skin, like weeks.
Oh yeah, you were a no skin man. That's no
Every
good.
single time I
That's not
logged
good.
in, I would hear like a sigh. Do you have any skins? And I'm like, who cares? And they're like, but you have the bot skin. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what does
Yeah.
that even mean? So I got
Yeah,
pressured
it's
and
not a
I
good
bought
look.
the Gambit skin because I'm like, what skin makes sense to have a gun?
Yeah, Gambit skin's a good one.
Right, but
That's
Gambit
gonna be
uses
good to have a
guns in the
gun.
comics. Sure, that makes sense. But like Batman, Superman with a
Yeah, Gambit
gun,
doesn't care.
not so much. But yeah, so I bought the stupid skin. It's the only skin I bought. So
That's a good one.
yeah,
They're about to do your nephews like Marvel because they're about to do a whole Marvel theme season, I believe.
dude. Again,
After
not to get completely off schedule, but like that store has the most predatory practices to youth I've ever seen in my entire life. The amount of anxiety my nephew shows because like, oh my god, the skin's out. It's gonna go away in a month. It'll never come back. I have to get it right now. Like that like they've got their hooks. Like they've got it in. Here's a skin. It's only available for
Mhm.
this battle pass, and it goes away forever. And let's be honest, it may go away for a few years, but it's never forever, right? Like,
Well, so far it's interesting because yeah, so the item shop loops daily,
yes,
and some things will only be in there daily, some things will be in there for a week. If it's like a big collab, it'll be a couple weeks. But they never tell you, or usually they don't tell you when something's coming out or when it'll come back. So it's kind of just at their leisure. And now Epic Games in a spot where Fortnite has put in hundreds of skins to where there are trackers. People have made like third-party trackers where you can look up a skin and they'll be like, this was last in the item shop on March 11th, 2024.
yeah,
And they're like, that was the last one was the shop. You just wait and just like, I hope it comes back soon.
yep.
And there have been skins that'll be gone for like 2 years and they'll eventually pop up and then people will buy them. But Battle Pass is the one thing I'm surprised they have never brought back a Battle Pass skin. That game's been out since 2017. They've done maybe 40, 50 Battle Passes at this point in Fortnite. They've never brought back like a skin and just let you buy it that was in a past Battle Pass. They've done like remixed versions or like recolored, but they've never gotten like the one-to-ones back. So they keep that FOMO going, which I thought they would have like shaken on that by now because people would like go crazy to spend on some of those old Battle Pass skins. But yeah, let's run some duo sometimes. I'm great at that
Sorry,
game. I have
but
a
no,
thousand
but
hours in Fortnite.
he's the like as I said, as you get older, you get more careful with your money. You're more particular. You're more criticized. Maybe a little more mature, and like so, it's harder when you're a harder sell as you get older. You're a harder sell in the
Yeah.
youth market. You're a much easier sell. You know, I need that skin. I need that. I need it right now. It's gonna be gone in 2 weeks. I'll never get the. It was like a flame skitter. It's like he flips out and he's like, "Do you have any V-Bucks you can give me?" I'm like, "I'm not gonna give you any V-Bucks, dude." Like, But you have so many. I was like, because I just wanted, because I'm just waiting for the Ghostbuster skin to come out in October. Really, that's all I bought it for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm. Yeah,
But no,
it's a
yeah,
whole thing on there, man. But to your point about, like, things that the youth will show up for and pay for, FNAF was a great example of that. They're gonna make a bunch of more FNAF
yeah,
movies, and good on
yeah.
them because I think that's cool. But, like, with the Skibidi Toilet stuff, I'm looking at this YouTube channel, man. The last episode, episode 76, came out 5 days ago. It's 8 minutes long. It has 14 million views, Greg. 14 million views. The episode before that, 16 million, 23 million, 30 million, 27. The most watched episode on this channel came out 10 months ago, 155 million views. This channel in total has 17 billion views on videos. So it's like, you could watch these videos as an adult and be like, this is stupid. It doesn't make sense. You can say that all you want, and you might even be right, but it also doesn't matter because clearly billions of people disagree, or I should say, millions of people disagree with you or think otherwise. And those are people who either can buy a $12 or $14, $16 movie ticket or have a parent who will.
Yep.
So yeah, I think reading the headline, I'm like, that's very silly, and I can't believe Michael Bay of all goddamn people is doing this. But I bet you if they get this guy who made these YouTube videos in there to at least put his sign of approval on it or consult or whatnot, this thing's gonna come out in theater. It's gonna make $1 billion because all these kids are gonna go see it. It's gonna make money hand over fist. People are gonna be calling Michael Bay a genius for grabbing this and deciding to adapt it. So I'm in a similar space as you, where I'm like, boy, okay, I don't know. I mean, I probably will see it just because I like movies and TV, and I'm fascinated by the things that do well. But this isn't for me. But it's for a lot of people. It is for a whole lot of people, and it's gonna make a lot of money, I assume. Uh,
I try to
but yeah,
think.
it's interesting.
I try to think about like
Mhm.
stuff that like my dad didn't understand when I was a kid. Like
Yeah,
video games was a big thing for him, but it was all video games. Like it wasn't just like one particular weird game. It was like all, he didn't just understand the infatuation or the drive for video games, right? He saw them as a waste of time, and to be fair, it is. It's a time killer. That's what it is. But if you enjoy, it's a time waster, but if you enjoy the time playing, is it really wasted, right? There's some philosophy for you. He never
yeah.
understood that on any level, and like I'll at least give everything at a chance at face value. This is just a little weird to me, but it seems like it's so off the wall, like it's something you'd share with your friends. You know what I mean? And like something
Yeah.
you'd watch
See,
together, something you react together.
that was something else I was gonna bring up too, is like we're saying this isn't for us, but also this is really truly, Greg, like just the natural conclusion of the era of like Red versus Blue and Machinima on YouTube in like 2008, when people
Absolutely.
like were first learning how to like make 20-second movies with like computer graphics, and they were super scuffed, they looked shitty, the resolution was bad, the animations were janky as hell. But it was just like that. Oh shit! Have you seen this video? And like showing it to your friend. We weren't handing each other smartphones like that back then, but we were like, turn in the big computer monitor to do it. This is just that in 2024. This is just somebody, presume a young person, who had the means and a computer and taught themselves how to like drag animations in an engine and create short films. And they posted them and they just took off. It's the same thing. We had these videos were like sugar in the late 2000s and
Yes.
even creeped into the early 2010s for a little bit. So, well, it's not for me. I mean, like, I wasn't on the ground floor on like the original life of this. I was a fiend for Red versus Blue when it came out. But I'm sure if I ever had my mom sit down and watch an episode of Red versus Blue with me, she would have been like, my brain hurts.
Yeah.
It would have been like
Exactly. Yeah.
it would
Exactly.
have
Yeah.
been like the dumbest thing she had ever seen. I'm sure. Uh, so I get it. I mean, hey, Gen Alpha, have fun. You're gonna. I love how they don't specify what this is going to be. They say movie and TV franchise, film and TV franchise. So clearly they have big plans for this. They're not just making a movie or a show. This thing's going to be everywhere. So I'm curious to see what services it ends up on there. Uh,
I mean, it's
how it
like Michael
does.
Bay's an odd is like he's a great action director. He knows how to do action and stunts and CGI sequences, which is great. But at the same time, like I feel he might be too old to do something like this. Like you really have to understand like why it's popular and
Mhm.
what makes it work. And if you hire someone who's too old who
Right.
just doesn't get it, it can just completely fail. Right? You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like, and youth will see through that. Like they'll see someone who's trying to like something that then they don't understand it. Right? Like, or they can see that sometimes. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely interesting. Like I think I do worry because it is we are in a generation that grew up with iPhones, right? Like where like this next generation is starting to reach teens, that grew up with an iPhone, right? They grew up with an iPad, stuff that we didn't even get, probably not until your late teens. Like you weren't born into an iPad. You were probably double digits before you had one, right? 10, 11.
I got my first iPhone in 2011. I was 13.
Yeah, so 13. Like these are kids who were like literally like they're born babies and there's iPads readily available for them. They're using them at like 2, 3, 4 years old. And there
Mhm.
was something to say about, they've done studies on it too. Like there's a retention factor. There's a almost a hypnosis effect on like TikTok and YouTube Shorts that plays the psychology of like development and what your brain does. And there was a study about like like the hamster who, there was a hamster study. I see if I can find it. Let me see if I can switch the thing, about like if you hit a button, it gave the hamster an orgasm, and like the hamster would just keep hitting the button, and he died. Like it's we're getting to that point where we're like,
Hell of a way to go out.
there's so much data now that we assess, that all of us have this like digital profile, and I feel like you use that data to just hit that target market now, and it can be dangerous, but it also doesn't stop it being. I don't think Skibidi Toilet is a thing made out of an algorithm, right? But like people are
No.
studying it. Why does this work? Oh, this is why it works, because every 4 seconds, and that could be unintentional. Every 4 seconds, this thing happens, or every 3 seconds, there's this color on the screen. Like people will start to try to replicate that, and that's what's dangerous to think about our information technology era. Is that like there's just so much data that you can accumulate, so much stuff you can look at it as on a spreadsheet or on a diagram to see exactly what you like, exactly what you're into, exactly what makes people enjoy the videos, right? And then trying to replicate that. I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I'm like what the fuck on it too, but that doesn't mean I don't. That doesn't mean I don't. I don't like it. That's stupid. It just means that I don't get it, and that's okay. I cannot get
Mm.
stuff. I'm old.
And that's fair. I'm slowly but surely joining you as I turned
Yeah.
26
As you
last
get
week.
it's
So there
over
you go.
35, you'll start to realize, uh-oh, I'm not understanding what my brother is showing me anymore. I don't get it.
He already calls me old anyway. He's been doing that for multiple years at
They
this
call
point.
my nephews call me old. They're like, they
Mhm.
said you're old. You're not supposed to be good at video games. I was like, what?
They're right. They're right. They're right. You're past your prime, old man. In esports years, Greg, you're like 50. All
I
right.
am, and then
Our
like
next.
so I'll show a picture of you on my
Uh-oh.
phone real fast. So like they wanted to 1v1 me in Fortnite, and they're like, well, 1v1 you in Fortnite, and I was like, are you sure? They're like, yeah. So then I beat them really badly, and they're like, well, you're gonna play my cousin Owen. Oh, you're gonna beat Owen. Owen's the best at Fortnite there is. This is me and Owen last night. This is our score. Come on, focus, focus.
Er, Oh, 132,
Yeah,
Gregors.
it was like 132 to like 80.
Get wrecked, Owen.
That's
Get absolutely
he's
wrecked.
like 10. He's good for 10. He's good. Like he is. I had to like sit up and like do it, but like I won. That's the most important thing.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah. It's amen. It's a different beast. And speaking of different beasts, we've got interesting couple of news stories to get to in the second half of this show. But before we get there, hey folks, follow the live stream. Hit that heart, but hit the notification bell so that you're made aware every time the Shack News Twitch channel goes live. And you know what you can do these days, Greg? If you go to the Shack News front page, on the right-hand side of your screen is the Shack News Twitch live stream schedule. It's just right there. It's not even in an article. You don't have to click into it. It's just on display. You just click that little purple button and it brings you right here to the Shack News Twitch channel. It's really a beautiful piece of technology, honestly. And it's something that I myself program here on the Shack News front page. Uh, what I would also like to mention is that Shack News is on social media. We're all over the place. We're on X.com
Mm.
at Shack News. We're on Facebook and Instagram, Shack News Media, TikTok, YouTube. Greg, how are things going on YouTube with all those videos and all those channels? Fantastic, I imagine.
Buried. Completely and utterly buried. I have stuff from GDC still. I have stuff from some of
Oh
Games
God,
Fest still. I've got
scrap it.
TJ sending me interviews. I got
Let
Ozzy
it.
sending me interviews. I have Ozzy sending me gameplay, terabytes of gameplay. Like I showed you that gif
Yeah,
of the wave. That was the wave, the wave of the beach just getting hit. Like there's just so much. And there's packs
yeah.
coming up, and there's other interviews, and there's previews. And we're not even in review season yet, Donovan. That's what scares the bejesus out of me.
Coming up, baby. I think review season really kicks off next month because Star Wars Outlaws comes out at the end of August. And then from there, I mean, it's over. You get into
September,
September,
October, November,
October.
boom, 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 boom. 3 months of like 20 games that come out that all have to have video reviews because they're big games. They're big games that people, whether you agree like you want to see reviews or not, they're important to have in the ecosystem. That people will want to at least get one other opinion on. Doesn't have to be ours, but one other opinion on.
Yep. I look forward to it. It's gonna be exciting. Also, I have one other special announcement to make here during our preview ad roll plug segment.
Plug segment,
Shack
yeah.
News Shack News is doing a PAX West badge giveaway. We're giving away, I believe, 5 badges. We can offer one here on Pop Goes the Culture, Shacknews Presents Pop Goes the Culture. So anybody watching, Squires, Slinky Jim, Mr. Bojangles 6996, if any of you live in the Pacific Northwest, the Seattle area, Washington State, anywhere you can reasonably drive to Seattle for PAX West in September, let us know. You just literally just say it in the chat, and I will, we grab information and get you a pass. Squires is not me. I appreciate you responding. I appreciate the acknowledgement there. I believe Ozzy posted a thread on Chatty yesterday, trying to throw the hook out there, see if anybody was interested. And I believe TJ put a notice in our official Shack News Discord. So there you go. If you're interested in going to PAX West, let us know. If you're like, hey, Seattle's a 7-hour drive for me, but I'll do it for a free badge to this event that a lot of people pay to go to. Go for it.
Yeah.
People have done it. People have done it. So there. Let us know. We're doing a PAX West badge giveaway in association with Repop, the people who put on PAX. We didn't like buy 5 passes and now we're trying to like dump them off on people.
You're trying
This
to
is
dump
a
them off.
sanctioned. Yeah, this is a sanctioned giveaway through the people who organize PAX as an event. Just in case I came off as like a guy in an alleyway trying to sell you badges. Because Greg, we've been to conventions. You've seen the dudes outside the convention center like wearing hoodies that have like a handful of badges. They're
The amount.
like, come on.
I'm
That's
amazed
not
that like
us.
they used us in the badge because the amount of smack we've talked about Reed Pop the last decade has been pretty substantial.
Hey, I haven't talked any smack about Repop. I just report the news. I'm reporting the news. Then I write the article when E3 went up and
was like
shit.
news
And
right
they were
here,
like,
just news, just that's it. There's
yeah.
no opinion. It's just
Uh-huh.
news.
Yep. Yeah, I just report the facts. When the events go bad or people contract viral diseases at them or they get canceled, I'm just informing the public. That's my job, my civic duty. But yes, please let us know if you're interested in the PAX West giveaway. I actually never been to PAX West. I would like to go because I like Seattle. I have a close friend, and we joke that when we get older, we're going to retire and live in Seattle. It's just a cool area. I just like the Pacific
Well,
Northwest.
fight
It's a
Aussie
nice,
for
like,
it. Fight Aussie for it. That you're on the
it's a
opposite
nice,
end of the
nice
country,
vibe.
which sucks. It's complete opposite ends.
It's not viable, man. Ozzy can get there for like 1/5 of the resources and money that I can get there for.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
just
true.
makes sense
My
for him to
flight
go.
was like
But
$300 like to get there.
yeah, mine would be a lot more than that. But it's all right. We'll figure it out. I'll go to PAX West one of these days. I went to Seattle for a Microsoft Flight Simulator event a few years ago. I had to fly a damn plane. People forget that I flew a plane for Shack News. You know, they like to take that away from me. I got flight hours,
That's
Greg.
terrifying. Dude. That
I
is
got
absolutely
I got
terrifying.
I got flight hours, man. I have a booklet in here somewhere that I have like 2 flight hours. If I want to get my pilot license, I'm 2 hours ahead of the rest of you jabronis.
2 hours
So
of
don't
the
forget that,
800 you
guys.
need to get licensed.
Yeah. Dude, I'll never forget. I was flying that plane, and the flight instructor next to me. This plane's like the size of a Toyota Camry. She like points out the window. Okay, she didn't point out the window. She
Pointed
well, we
out
kept
toward the
our
window. Yeah,
yeah
toward the window. Yeah.
yeah the mountains as we're like looking at beautiful Washington State, all the woods and mountains. She's like, right over there at the summit of that mountain is where Ted Bundy buried most of his victims. It's like, wow, really fascinating. I'm like, we're just up here by ourselves in this little tiny biplane and talking about serial
Little
killers.
single prop plane. Yeah, dude, you should. I mean, I wish you had a video camera. That would have been fun to record like a reaction and like the
Dude, I wish. I for some reason I feel like they recorded us on the ground when we got out of them. I don't think I had that footage. No, wait. I do have footage of me flying it. They gave me an SD card. I have footage of me like in the plane flying it. We could
Send it
post
to me.
that. I'll
Send it to me. Find it.
yeah.
Search for it. I'll
Nobody
get it
knows
up.
when it. Oh, you know what? We can use it when the new Flight Simulator game comes out. We can post it. I think the issue with it was really boring because it's like 45 minutes footage. It's just me like this
I'll find something like of you getting terrified
for
at a
like
certain
45
point.
minutes. I was scared. I was creeped out. It was like being on a roller coaster that goes up to the clouds. Won't be doing that again, but I did do it once, so that's good enough for me. And you know what else was good? Oh, no, go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, I can't believe you didn't take the advantage to be bitten the pilot seat. Be like, how good of a pilot are you? And then have the person answer and be like, well, we're about to find out. And then just turn. Oh my god!
Yeah,
What did you do?
I yeah. If I wasn't scared myself, I would have messed with it a little bit. I do remember asking her though how long you've been flying, and she was like 5 years. And I remember her saying that in my head, being like, 5 years doesn't seem like a long
That doesn't
time to
seem like enough time for you to
be
be
teaching
charging
other
my
people how
life
to
in a
fly.
in a metal box
Yeah,
of death.
you're supposed to be like 15 years, 20 years, 5 years. Okay, that's not that long ago. I was like in high school 5 years ago. But that is so besides the point. You know what else I was happy with the first time, and I didn't really need a second time, Greg? Joker, the Joker movie. I was happy with the first one. Didn't really need a sequel after I saw it. But but in spite of that, we are getting a Joker 2. It's been confirmed, it's been announced. We've gotten a trailer for it. And yesterday we got our second trailer, Greg, for Joker Folie à Deux, which is how you
Which
say
is alone
something two
pretentious, which
in
does not help
French.
its case at all.
It's a pretentious title, very apt because the first movie was pretentious as all get out. I like Joker. I think it's also very much up its own ass. Which that's okay. I like movies that are up their own asses. La La Land's is my top five favorite movie of all time. That movie's a bit up its own ass sometimes. That's okay. Uh, but we got the trailer for Joker 2. Now, I don't give a damn about Arthur Fleck Joker. Like I don't care about his story where he goes after the first movie. But you telling me Lady Gaga, Stephanie Germanata as Harley Quinn? Now, I mean that's a bit interesting. That gets the needle moving a little bit
Stephanie's
because
great. She's great in American Horror Story. She's fantastic. She's got chops.
she's
She's
great.
great.
I mean, if you've seen A Star Is Born, I mean, that is like an Oscar caliber performance she gives in A Star Is Born. She's also a great singer. I mean, Lady Gaga, I know she's done a lot of pop music that doesn't really get to stretch her vocals, but boy, when she sings, she is singing. She is a very talented dual threat like performer. So her as Harley Quinn, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. That's really interesting. And apparently they're going to be singing this movie. It's going to be a musical. I have the trailer muted right now because that'd be a nightmare to have the audio on while I'm talking.
It doesn't
But
matter. It gets
apparently,
flagged anyway.
well, I was just gonna say that apparently you hear Joker singing this, but we can't really listen to that right now because we're discussing over this trailer. But Greg, you like Joker. Are you interested in Joker 2? Does this trailer get you excited? Are you gonna go to the one movie theater within a 60-mile radius to see this in theaters?
No, no, I won't. At like the same time, like I said, the first movie, it's like I said, yeah, I agree with you. It's super pretentious, but it has a lot of messaging, like important messaging.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but every single time there's a Batman reference, I just roll my eyes because it feels so incredibly forced and tacked on. And I said this, my
Hey,
theory is
how's
that
Batman a kid and all his villains are adults?
it doesn't, the whole thing doesn't make sense. And to me, when I see that, this is just a theory, and I have no evidence of this, but I feel like this screenplay was written and pitched, and the studio is like, well, it's kind of like Joker. Can you like make a Batman tie-in and then we'll give you the money? Like I feel like that was the kick because like I've heard about meetings like that with like that movie Dread with Carl Urban like was only made because they agreed to do it in 3D. Like there's been stuff that studios were like, and I agree. Like I don't think without the Batman tie-in, I think it would have made no money. I don't think people would have been any interested. Like because it's an art piece. It's an art piece with a lot of
Mhm.
messaging about society and mental health, that's a hard sell in 20 in modern days, a hard sell, a movie with a lot of messaging. So I feel
Yeah.
like you get some of the Batman audience to go see it just because of the Batman stuff. I am interested to see like the whole fact that he's going on trial and it looks like it's very complicated for something that should be so straightforward is super interesting to me. Like the dude murdered someone, spoilers, the dude murdered someone on national
Multiple
television
someones.
point blank,
Yeah.
just murder, and like we're actually having a trial that he might actually get off on. Like what? Like I think, and that could lead into
Clinically
satire.
insane.
Yeah, that could lead into satire into like celebrities getting away with a bunch of terrible behaviors, because they're famous or popular or have like a community behind them. Like it'll have a lot of messaging. The messaging I think is what's interesting about the film. The Batman stuff is stupid.
Uh-huh.
I want it out, but I think it does
You're gonna
like.
see Bruce Wayne in this movie, Greg. So buckle up. You're gonna see Bruce Wayne in
Yeah,
this
I
movie.
don't. Yeah, I mean that's distracting to me. That whole thing is distracting. But I think the concept of like having him do the murder of the first film, and this is now the trial, and like watching everything kind of unfold. Like this should be like open and shut, right? Clearly open and shut. So now we're gonna get messaging about
Okay.
how our legal system works, right? How people who are quote unquote criminally insane get treated in certain prisons. Like I think there's a lot more to this movie than just it's a Batman Joker movie. Like, and like if I had a class like in college, I may have people watch it because it is interesting. Like it does say a lot. It has a lot to say, and it's filmed very well. Like like you're talking like camera on floor with set, and like they're already like you're already at.
Todd Phillips, good filmmaker.
Yeah,
He
yeah. I
could,
mean, like
he can
like
make movies.
not a green screen in sight. You know what I mean? Like that's cool. That's cool to me, right?
Yeah.
Like that means like you were adamant about having real sets and real lighting, and that's becoming a lost art. There's so much control when you have a green screen. Like you can fix anything, and like this one, if something's not lit correctly, it looks terrible, but it looks like it's beautiful. Everything looks practical. Most of the stuff looks practical. I think there's like one dream sequence in here, I guess, that looks okay. But I won't see it, but like I definitely think it's an interesting film, and people should see the first one. And then there's gonna be a lot of messaging in this one, and I think it's gonna parody our legal system, our mental health system, our and our society, just like how we worship weird. Like
We live
he's
in a
not a good
society.
dude. Like if you like you feel bad for him, but he's not a good dude. Like if you watch The Boys, Homelander, right? Like he's a sociopath, but like understanding how he became a sociopath makes you feel bad for someone who's like that, and that's wild. The dude is a rapist and a murderer and like and a narcissist, but like you understand why he's that way. That's not an excuse. I'm just saying like you can be like, oh, I get it. Arthur's the same way. He's not a good person. Maybe he was, and then he morphs into this like sociopath. And like you see that evolution about what happens. Like, and I think a lot of the questions of the first movie was like when you see stuff on the news, like like woman drives her 4 kids, or like man kills wife and all kids. You're like, how do they get that way? And you're like, you show the movie. You know what I mean? Like it's not an excuse. It's just trying to show you the other side of it that people, I don't want to say normal people, but people that don't have any mental challenges or mental instability, like don't understand, right? Because we've never experienced something like that in our life. So it's, again, not relatable to us. It's showing the other side of that spectrum. Again, just in case anyone clips this out of context, it's not an excuse for that behavior. It's just
Not over
showing
for you, man.
Yeah, it's
You gotta
just
get around
showing you
October.
that side of it. It's just showing you. And I think it's going to say a lot.
I want to call out a couple of comments from Arm Squares in the chat. It says, "Is Phoenix still going for the anorexic look? Kind of looks like it. Yeah, they had that shot where he's shirtless and you see his back and he's kind of his bones are protruding out. They're still going for that very unwell physically look. And then I hate the Batman tie-in for this.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting discussion because we live in like this world where obviously comic book movies and stuff are like king. They've made billions of dollars over the years. People love them. They got to see them. And we've gotten so many spin-offs now for villains or characters that only exist to serve a comic book protagonist, right? Where like the Joker only exists in fiction because of Batman. And for 99% of the Joker's existence, he's only existed to be a foil to Batman. He was not created to be a protagonist of his own story. And maybe sometimes him and Batman butt heads. Like he is subservient just as a narrative device to Batman as a character. But now we have a Joker movie. But the same goes for Morbius, who was just exists to be a Spider-Man villain. That's all he's there for. Sure, he has like interesting things about his character, but like he was never made to be a character that stands on his own and goes around and does random shit. Kraven the Hunter's the same way. Kraven movie comes out this year. Venom, same way. And I know Venom has had like comic book arcs where they have fleshed out that character and actually made Venom a character that stands on his own. But like Venom was made just to be like evil Spider-Man that has the black suit that's all slimy and kills people. And that's all he was. And we've reached this level of entertainment now where it's like we've made enough Batman movies. Obviously, they're not going to stop, but we've made so many Batman movies, and now they're like Joker movies. Let's do it. Like this won't be the last Joker movie. It might be the last Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, but in 8 years they'll make like another one. They'll get the next actor who wants to put their spin on it to do a Joker movie. So I just think that like inherently the idea of these movies are like so flawed. We're just like the concept of it's just Joker. It's the movie shouldn't even exist. But it's like, I guess why not? I mean, the movie was good. The first Joker is a good movie. I'll say that. I do like it. I think it's good. I got a bit annoyed by it because I think that it is a bit pretentious. I think people took the wrong lessons from it. And I got tired of seeing people with like Joker profile pictures being like, society hates me. You're making me this way, blah, blah. But still, I do think it's an interesting movie with some very shocking moments looking back at that movie. So I don't know. I mean, Joker fully ado might be very good. I might watch this movie. That's one of the best movies of the year. But yeah, just to speak to like the Batman tie-ins of it all. On one hand, I'm like, of course there's Batman tie-ins because Joker's a Batman character. at the end of the day. It boiled down to its simplest terms. He was a Batman character. But then also you make these movies and you're like, oh, we're finally getting away from the classic Batman versus Joker storyline, and he's in here. Also, Greg, apparently Harvey Dent's in this movie. When you're watching the YouTube video on the subtitles, there's a scene where they're in the car and it's like Harvey Dent's like bloop, 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 bloop. So that's interesting, I guess.
I mean, it's also like the Joker as a character has evolved to more of an ideal, and this started with Gotham, right? Like Joker's not a person; he's an idea, right? So like
Yeah, I thought that was
and
interesting. I like that.
that's an interesting idea, right? And like that's what it capitalizes on. But I still think the movie is much more powerful. I like to compare it to like Starship Troopers. Like, do you know how many of my friends who are like 100% pro military love that movie? Do you know how many of them
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
understand that
Mirror
that was a
Bros.
satire of military? It's actually anti-military. Like they don't like. I feel like some people take the
That's
wrong
concerning.
things from movies sometimes. You know what I mean? They just, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Then they take what they want out of them, and like the joke, like I said
yeah.
before, the Joker, Arthur's character is a bad dude. You're not supposed to like feel like you can feel bad for him, sure, but like he's not justified in anything he does. It's all wrong. It's all bad. You know what I mean? Regardless of what society does, like he's a terrible
Hmm.
person, a terrible human being, and like, but like people will take don't might not take that away from the movie, right? They be like, oh, I'm like Joker too, and it's just like, but that's not good. Like, I feel like it's one of those like things that the artists have to come and be like, no, listen, here's what I was trying to say. Please don't misinterpret what I was trying to say. There's that artist who paints the flowers. You're painting vaginas. I'm just painting flowers. No, no, you're painting vaginas, and it's just like, no, I'm not. I'm really not. But that's art, right?
Yeah.
Good art is up to interpretation. And like a lot of
Hmm.
artists won't tell you. Was it not Memento? What was the Inception? Right? Like, is he in a dream or is he out of the dream world? You know, like, well, I'm not. It creates conversations. It creates interesting stuff. A lower key version would be like Five Nights at Freddy's, right? Like how do the kids get free? Like how does the possession work? Like do they have to die in this? Like it creates conversations, debates. You know, people dig into it, right? There's a lot of meat there. When it's black and white, you know, a lot of superhero movies are black and white. We know who the villain is, we know who the hero is. You know, we like when it's not that clear, it creates conversation, and that's good. Conversation's good. It's always good to have
Hmm.
conversations.
Yeah, I agree with you. Squares just finished the Starship Troopers book. I know there was a Starship Troopers book, so there you go. I just learned something new.
It was based
Um,
on a book, wasn't it? It was originally, I
yeah,
think.
apparently I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, mm, yeah. That's look. What I will say is this movie looks really well shot, and as somebody who likes
Yes.
cinema,
It does look really well
somebody
shot.
who somebody who wrote a few mise en scènes back in his day, took some film classes in college. I'll appreciate it on a very basic level. Blocking, filming, lighting, all looks great. I'm sure I'll enjoy that. It's not going to be painful to watch this movie, which I'll appreciate. I know Joaquin Phoenix is one of the greatest working actors. He'll be awesome. Lady Gaga's going to be awesome. Brendan Gleeson is in this movie. Apparently, I just learned that, so that'll be interesting. So I'm looking forward to it, just as somebody who enjoys movies. But the nerd in me, the comic book fan, the DC fan, isn't like bursting at the seams because there's a new Joker movie. So those will be an interesting one. It comes out on October 4th. I will be watching it and reviewing it for this very channel.
I mean,
Greg,
the
speak.
first. Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
One more thing before we head out. Just the first thing. The first way was very focused on mental health. And if you know anything about our society in America specifically, because I'm not sure how the rest of the world works, but like mental health is always the first thing that gets looked over and cut in budgets. Always, always. You know, oh,
Mhm.
you have a bullet, sure. You have a cut or a wound or an infection, we can see that. We'll give you pills. Oh, you have trauma that you don't know how to process. We don't have a budget to fix that, and then you end up with people like the Joker. Like it's bad. But anyway, it says a lot about mental health in our system, how we treat it out here. It's always the first to get cut to, and every budget, whenever a budget gets slashed, mental health is the first thing that goes. Anyway, okay, that's all.
There you
Well, we
go.
can move on to the next story now. Speaking of mental health,
Yes.
moving on to the next story.
Speaking of things getting cut and
There you go.
canceled
That's a better
for
segue.
budgets, the Halo series has been canceled at Paramount Plus after 2 seasons. No, and just a thousand voices just screamed out in terror.
There are dozens of
Uh,
them. Dozens.
dude, that might be an overstatement. The Halo show, I mean, honestly, I didn't think it was gonna make it to season 2. I'm sorry, I'll read this. The live action Halo series has been canceled at Paramount Plus. Variety has learned. The big budget series based on the popular Xbox video game franchise aired 2 seasons at the streaming service. The show originally debuted in 2022, while the second season aired between February and March 2024. Yeah, Paramount Plus can confirm the Halo will not move forward with the third season on the service. This is from a Halo statement. We are extremely proud of this ambitious series and would like to thank our partners at Xbox, 343 Industries, and Amblin Television. Dude, I did not know Amblin was involved in this. Steven Spielberg, what are we doing?
Oh, he's a production
Along with
company.
the show,
Yeah, huge. They sets, build stuff.
yeah,
Like, they're
Amblin's
big
his
on
place.
production. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about Amblin in a little bit because I got a bone to pick with Amblin and Mr. Spielberg. And just another segment here. The entire cast, led by Pablo Schreiber, Master Chief. Hey, we had a press opportunity to watch this show early. It's one of my first film and television opportunities at Shacknews. I got invited to the premiere for the show in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that shake because I live in Maryland. But I got to watch the first few episodes of the first season early. The first few episodes were like not the worst because they do the little HUD thing. They got the sound of, the Spartan armor looks at. I remember right in the preview being like, this could be okay. I don't know. And the rest of the season came out, and the Halo is really bad. The show was so bad. Um, I couldn't finish the first season. I watched like a couple more episodes, and then I was just like, "That's all I got for you, Chief." And then, I mean,
I gotta clip that.
they made it to.
I have a feeling someone's gonna disagree with you.
No, this is I don't know if Oz was going to disagree with me about the Halo Paramount Plus series being bad. We disagree about a lot of things. Not Halo and Paramount Plus being a bad TV show.
I have watched 0 seconds of this, so I shouldn't really have an opinion.
Oh, I watched a lot of seconds of it, unfortunately. Well, but there's not going to be any more seconds of it. It's canceled.
I talked to Sam about it. And, Sam is like the #1 Halo apologist on staff, so like,
yes,
I definitely have heard both sides, but really one side that it's just pretty terrible. Like, everything they've done from the face reveal of Master Chief, like in episode 2 of the show or something, like
it's somewhere in season 1. He takes the helmet off.
It's early, like it's very early. Like, how many Halo games have there been we've never seen his face, and then they do it in the first season of this? That's dumb. It might also just be like, is it interesting enough for a movie or a TV show?
I think
that's the argument, though, right? Because like people have argued about the Halo campaigns, even when Halo was popping, people were still like, the campaign is like, shrug your shoulders. I liked the Halo campaigns back in the day, but they were never like heralded as like a bastion of video game storytelling.
Honestly, like the most recent Halo Infinite, I think has one of the better stories, and like,
cool.
But like, this was doomed to fail. Because, like you said, the production value was very high on it. It didn't look bad, but it just, there's no soul. Like you go and you look at Fallout, what they did there versus this, and I think it's a fair comparison to put these two next to each other. And then you look, Fallout's excellently produced, but it was also perfectly casted and like they were
written,
reverent to the source material.
Yeah.
Where this was like, this could have just been a show on Sci-Fi that didn't feature Master Chief, and I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. If you like remove Master Chief, you remove Cortana, and it was just a sci-fi action show, it would have fallen flat on its face, right? But the most important question here you haven't asked: how does this affect Tulsa King Season 2?
How does this the most important question?
Has there been any news on Tulsa King? That's a Paramount Plus thing, right?
Look, I'm not here to talk about Halo, but since we're talking about Paramount Plus, what is going on with Tulsa King Season 2?
Oh, so Tulsa King Season 2 is scheduled to premiere on Paramount Plus on September 15th, 2024.
Eat it, Master Chief. So Master Chief died so we could get Season 2 of Tulsa King. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine with this. You know what? We get some specials.
The Economic Times.
What do they call those special event South Park episode things? Whatever they are.
Specials.
We get those.
They're called specials. Just specials. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the specials, we get those. I think Paramount Plus has football sometimes.
They have CBS games, yeah.
And now we have Tulsa King Season 2. This is a perfect time for both of you to watch Tulsa King Season 1, by the way.
What the hell is Tulsa King?
Yeah.
You don't know what Tulsa King is? This is a show about pop culture. How do you not know what Tulsa King is?
Greg, I I'm not gonna.
What if I told you
not
Sylvester Stallone did a show with the showrunners from The Sopranos? Greg, what if I told you that? Would that be interesting?
Sure. I mean, like, he's got to find
Would that be
time. We have Paramount.
I know you love Hollywood misogyny. What if I told you that his daughter's in the show too?
Oh, that's great. Well earned. I'm sure.
I'm sure you're super happy about that.
I mean, but looks like it's got a good cast. Like, I
Dude,
mean, like,
it's
good
so
supporting
good.
cast.
It is so good. Even like the people that you might not recognize, they do a great job. I am worried about I've watched the whole show.
I think Paramount Plus the one
It's
thing
set
we
in
don't
Tulsa,
have.
Oklahoma, right? That's the Tulsa in question.
Yeah, he's a former mob capo, right? Like he was like the lieutenant to the mob boss in New York. The boss dies, spoiler alert, and he gets sent to Tulsa. Because it's like back in the day when you screwed up in New York, you're part of the mafia, you got sent to Youngstown, Ohio.
You go swimming with the fishes. Oh.
Well, that too. But if let's say you're not getting killed, but you want to be, they want to punish you. They used to send you to Ohio.
Damn.
This is even worse. They send this like you're gonna run the drug game in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he like, it's funny because he actually succeeds because it's Sylvester Stallone, and it's really funny. The show, I don't know if they were trying to be funny, but it is. So like, I don't care. It makes me laugh, and there's also some intense violence in the show, like.
It's a gangster
Very,
show, I'd imagine. Yeah, I mean,
but like it's graphic. You're like, whoa. So it kind of harkens back to the Sopranos days. So like, I think Sopranos is an excellent series, and showrunners from that. And instead of Tony, we have, I can't remember his name in this, but we have Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone, he's sly.
He's basically Sylvester Stallone in everything he's ever done, right? Like he doesn't have another voice. It's his voice. But yeah, there's like relationship with a cop. There's this bartender guy. He goes into business with him later. It talks about marijuana legalization. Yeah, it's interesting how the drug trade has been affected by the legalization of marijuana and like what the biker gangs are dealing in now. It's interesting. And yeah, he takes on basically everyone. Like it's Sylvester Stallone versus everyone by the end of that season 1.
I bet you the budget of season 1 was a fraction of what the Halo series was too.
Probably.
Yeah.
Hey,
there was an Irish biker gang in Tulsa, Oklahoma, apparently. But you know, biker gangs are everywhere. That it's a pretty common thing. But yeah, excellent show. You should watch it.
R.I.P. Halo on Paramount Plus. Long live
supposed
Tulsa
to talk
King
about
on
Halo.
Paramount
We
Plus.
got sidetracked with Tulsa King.
No one cares about Halo. Like we did it, I do another.
Storm Chandler was upset by this news.
I'll have he's
the
gonna
one
go in the
person
chat.
on
His ears
staff.
are braided.
Yeah, one person cared, but like,
it's
not. Halo as a franchise isn't even relevant right now. Like we did a game on Shack Together a couple episodes ago. The top 15 games by time played on Xbox. Neither Infinite nor Master Chief Collection showed up. That's crazy. Halo Infinite is free. It costs $0 to play, and people still aren't playing it. I just think Microsoft did what Microsoft does to brands. They killed it. Halo is on life support right now.
I think it stables even deeper than that. Like Donovan might have been too young, but also if you and I like there was like a very strong 4-year, 5-year stint where Halo arguably revolutionized multiplayer, revolutionized, like Red and Blue, like it did all these things for the time that was like it was before the first person shooter craze happened. Like it was arguably one of the first ones to just explode. I remember it being everywhere. I remember buying I remember people buying Crackdown.
Time out. No.
You got to watch the FPS doc.
There's an FPS documentary that breaks. What you're talking about is first-person shooters on consoles. Yes.
Console.
It did that.
Not PC.
Console multiplayer. Yes. Matchmaking. Yes. Those were Halo 1, Halo 2, and a little bit of Halo 3. So that was about an 8-year period. that was about an 8-year period though, Donovan, like where Halo was not just relevant, it was very relevant. It moved systems. I bought an Xbox to play Halo.
Yes.
I bought a 360 to play Halo 3 and Gears. And they're well on their way to ruining Gears right now too, you guys. But like Microsoft has ruined this franchise. And maybe Halo would have been better in a film format than a TV show. Cuz like I don't know if I need a serial like once a week hour long thing for Halo. Like a one-off 90-minute film I think might have resonated better, and maybe that could have been the thing to get people more interested in Master Chief and Halo. Cuz this failed. Like if we have the Last of Us effect, we have the Mario movie effect, we have the Fallout effect, we have the Sonic effect, right? Like we have multiple films and TV shows, Twisted Metal, like to varying degrees of success, but we've seen it multiple times now where more people were playing Fallout after that series came out. More people bought Mario games after the Mario movie came out. This didn't do shit for Halo.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. I think that's got to be part of the motivation of these game companies doing this stuff, licensing their IP out, is to get people back into their ecosystem.
Oh, it's a commercial for sure, like a certain level.
And this failed. This failed miserably.
And I mean, it just, like you mentioned, the Halo game franchise is in a great state. I think a lot of it just goes back to Bungie doesn't make these games anymore. I think it's that simple. I mean, the last good Halo games were made by Bungie. There's the clear divide before and after Bungie. If you want to, you also attribute that to Gears as well, right? With the Coalition taking over for
when
Epic
Bungie left, they
Games
took their community
whatnot.
with them. Is basically what it was. Like their community.
Well, they took good video game design with them as well.
They took their weapon designers with them, and you look at how many god rolls there are in Destiny 2, and how cool the weapon design and the class design and the levels. Everything that made Halo 1, 2, 3, and Reach special is over at Destiny. And you could argue that people have left Destiny now too. So you've seen it like the churn over as well, because they're now owned by Sony. But it's very strange.
It's that period of time.
But you're right.
I remember when my friends, I didn't have internet access. That's how old it was, because we didn't live in in a residential section, so we didn't have internet access. But like they would be up until 4 a.m. on a school night playing Halo 2. I tell the story all the time, but I was walking out of an EB Games, and some guy was like, he opened a Crackdown case. He's like, "Do you want this?" I was like, "I don't have a 360. I don't have an Xbox or whatever." And he was like, "Okay." And he threw it in that. He threw the game out, and he pulled out the code for the beta and just walked off. Like the people were buying that game just for the beta, nothing else. And like
I played more of Halo 3 beta than I played of Halo 3.
That's huge. Like it's a huge cultural impact, but I think it happened to be one of those games and one of those franchises that was right place, right time, doing a lot of like dominating the console market at the time, and then just kind of lost its longevity. Like, I mean, like it is a very old school story, right? It's the one-man army, right? Like the one-man army comes and saves everybody. Like it's a very 90s mentality.
It's like Rambo.
Yeah.
It's like Rambo in space. Yeah. No, I get it. But like, and we've seen it with Doom, right? Like Doom had its era of relevance and then it failed miserably, with Doom 3. And like Doom 3 is not a bad game. And I would argue that Halo Infinite's not a bad game. It's not.
Thank you.
It's not a bad game. But it is not of the tier of Halo 3, 2, 1, and Reach, in my opinion.
No, it's just some IPs don't have that longevity. It's unavoidable sometimes.
Some IP are not as important. Like it goes back to why I love Nintendo, and I know I'm a fanboy and I'm wearing a Nintendo shirt right now or whatever. You go back and you look at the credits for Mario Wonder last year. 5 people in those credits are also credited in the original Mario game. Like there's that 40 years of longevity. There's Sam. I'm sorry, Sam. I'm sorry.
We lost our video. I'm gonna clip that. I don't care about Halo.
I don't. It's just not relevant anymore.
It's not. No, you're right. Like, to say otherwise would be incorrect. It's just not.
But you're right that it did revolutionize console FPS. Like it made matchmaking a much better experience. But also, like Greg, to your point about the OG Xbox days, we were bringing our Xbox over to friends' houses and system
TVs.
linking.
Yep.
Yeah. System link was huge for Halo 1 and 2. And like, that was like cool as hell that a console supported that. That was like really cool, innovative stuff happening there where the hardware and the software were pushing the industry forward. We have not seen that from Microsoft in a very long time.
No.
And it's unfortunate because, like, yeah, I do compare Gears and Halo because they're two of my favorite franchises, and neither of them are in a good place right now. We'll see what happens with this next Gears.
Gears is the same story. Like, it was huge. Like 4 a.m. playing Gears online multiplayer. Like Gears 2, Gears 1. Yeah. Like, it was huge. And then it just, I don't think you can put a pin in it. I think it's just right place, right time, and longevity just didn't last. That's all. Like, I think that's all it came down to. People didn't like where the story went. Sam, people didn't like the characters they focused on, and they started to fragment, and then they start to lose, right? That's the whole thing, right?
Sam's pointing to Kinect, and I agree. When they tried to make the Xbox One the living room computer, they failed. It was a miserable failure where, like, you're going to control your TV with your voice. And it was like, it didn't take off. And like, you're going to use Skype. You're going to be able to snap Skype into your Xbox. And it's like, none of that materialized. But my point is more just that Microsoft, that first Xbox, they were taking risks. And each one since, they've taken less risk. And it shows. Nintendo swings for the fence every time. And sometimes they have a Virtual Boy on their hands. Sometimes they have a Wii U.
Sometimes they have a Power Glove.
Sometimes they have the Power Glove. But then think about what the Power Glove led to.
Yep.
We don't get the Joy-Con without the Power Glove. You know what I mean?
That was 30 years before it, which is even wilder to think about how advanced they were back then, right? Like the idea was there, just the technology wasn't. The technology was not caught up.
That kind of forward thinking exists in other competitors in the games industry. I don't think Microsoft has that. They're very unoriginal. That's why they just, when all else fails, they cut a check and acquire another IP. But like, if we're lucky enough to be doing this show 5 years from now, there's going to be a conversation about how Xbox destroyed the Call of Duty franchise. Like, that's where I see this going. Like, I don't think we're going to be like, oh man, that acquisition was great for COD. No. They're going to look at, oh, we lost revenue by putting COD on Game Pass. Well, you're the idiots who did that. Obviously I'm predicting the future here, but I just, based on the past, that Microsoft will ruin every IP that they acquire.
I mean, on top of that, also, just to chime in on that, I couldn't figure out a way. I looked at guides. I couldn't figure out a way to play regular COD without having Warzone installed. They force you, or as far as I could tell, they force you to install Warzone so they can say, look at all the metrics, look at all the downloads. I don't want to play Warzone. I just want to play Domination. Nope, I need to install 200 gigs of Warzone.
It's something like 200 plus gigabytes.
Yeah, for Warzone, and I don't want to play Warzone, but they make you. They force you. And if you try to launch it, it says you're missing assets.
These consoles don't come with a whole lot of storage, and like PCs, like still like 200 gigs on your PC is like you might have to delete some games or move them to a different drive or something. And all that stuff, Greg, that was Activision's decision. That was not Microsoft. So they were already screwing up beforehand. But also, like, there's that, I keep bringing it up, there's that contract where Microsoft pledged to support Nintendo Switch for 10 years with COD. How can you even fit Warzone on a Switch?
You can press the hell out of it. The same way you fit Mortal Kombat 1 on the Switch.
Oh, okay. Well, that turned out great.
Make it look like ass.
Yeah. I don't know, but do you think they're going to pull that shit on Switch? Where you have to have COD, you have to have whatever Black Ops you're playing, and MW and Warzone installed?
I think they're banking on the cloud, on playing it via the cloud. I think they're banking on that technology, which is still not ready.
Because you know what's great? Playing online multiplayer games with cloud latency on input. That's not a horrible idea. Jesus. Do I need to get my Stadia controller to remind you what happens?
Please no.
Okay. Anyway,
we do not. All right. Well, we'll segue out of that one. Halo's is dead. Well, maybe we'll get a Call of Duty series on Paramount Plus. Let's throw that at the wall and see if that sticks. That'll be fun.
It's just Soap McTavish. It's just Soap McTavish, but 24. I would watch it.
Wait a minute. Hey, that doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world.
Hey, Microsoft, call me. I got plenty of ideas, and you guys have so much money.
Yeah,
anyway.
it's a matter of when, not if. Speaking of things that are inevitable, how about Eminem, Marshall Mathers? Let's get into the review segment of this show. Because also, if you're joining us to do a music review, you're turning into the music person on this show.
Yeah.
Well, I was just music myself. I just don't put on my run of show all the time. You got an album review to do?
I don't think you and Greg can have meaningful conversations about music unless it's like very specific genres, and it has to be like 90s ska. Like we could do a show about 90s ska with Greg, but like, yeah, I think Donovan, you're listening to music. You own vinyl, like you're a collector. Yeah. But yeah, like I am gonna chime in from time to time, and also I listened to the Eminem album, so you didn't have to, folks at home.
Thank you. And so I'm not going to do that.
No, I would actually not recommend it to most people. It's not that it's so like Eminem is a technically very proficient rapper, right? Like he's technically one of the best rappers in the world. Just his cadence, the various cadences that he uses, his wordplay has kind of been revolutionary at times. So I was disappointed that like what we're witnessing is called the death of Slim Shady, right? Yeah. What we're witnessing is like this is, in my opinion, we're watching Eminem say goodbye to his fans, his family to a larger extent, but also to Slim Shady. Like this is the death of Slim Shady. He wants to kill off that part of his life because, and this is my takeaway, the first half of the album sucks. It sucks. It sucks really bad. It sucks like intentionally bad, right? So if you've seen the song Houdini or the music video, the premise of this album is that Eminem is in present day, right? He's an adult. He's 50 years old. And the 2003 version of Slim Shady walks through a portal into present day America. And the idea is, how would he react to the world today? Spoiler alert, it's the exact same way he was rapping in 2003. So he's saying transphobic things. He's making fun of Christopher Reeves. There's a song where he makes fun of blind people, deaf people, fat people, disabled people, transgender people, and pronouns in like 30 seconds. And it's like rage bait, right? The first half of this album is regurgitated rage bait. They mentioned Caitlyn Jenner 12 times in the first half of this album. And it's just stupid and tasteless, right? And it's intentional. The whole idea is that it builds to this point, I want to say it's Guilty Conscience 2, where Eminem shoots Slim Shady, like he kills him. And then the back half of the album is like Eminem apologizing to his fans, to the music scene, and to his his children and his family. So normally, if there's a good Eminem song, I'll listen to it like more than once. Like an album, I don't like listening to his albums all the way through. There's usually a couple of tracks that stick out. In this case, the first half of the album sucks. I wouldn't recommend any of it. There is a song called Antichrist. Greg, I would not. Don't even use B-roll.
Don't even.
Just turn it off. He is the worst. He is the worst. Dude, just put us on screen. It's fine. Like seriously, he is the worst when it comes to copyright infringement. Like, if you even just, you know what you should do, Greg? Find a picture of like Eminem's candies and just put it on the screen.
I'm watching it.
That'll
right
work.
Now. When he released a single a few months ago, my brother was listening to it in his car. I'm like, "What is this?" He's like, "Oh, it's Eminem's new single." I'm like, "Oh, is it good?" And he went, "Eh." That's it.
It's almost identical to the last. Like, it's so much of it is the same, and I hate that from art. I don't want, oh wow, look at these same bars from 2003. Like, yeah, it's still annoying when you make fun of Columbine. It's still annoying when you, like, none of that is cool. And even Eminem like he talks to himself throughout this in sketches and also in the songs. Like Marshall Mathers is a character who's trying to stop Slim Shady in this album. So by the end, you just have Marshall. And Guilty Conscience 2 is them kind of conversing about what happened in the first part of the album. And then after Guilty Conscience 2, it gets better. I will say that Antichrist, it's just funny. Because the chorus is, his name is Marshall, he's the Antichrist. And like, it's the devil went to Michigan. Like, it talks about him basically being the Antichrist and the devil being his dad. The very end of that song, Bizarre from D12, has like 8 bars that are really good. I think it's funny that this is an album where my 2 favorite songs are the songs I'll point out. I like them not because of Eminem. I like them because of who's featured on them. And this leads me to my favorite song on the album. Somebody Save Me, featuring Jelly Roll, is the best song on this album. And it's rare where, Eminem is on a track with someone else. Usually Eminem is the one that sticks out. Like Renegade, right? The Jay-Z song. A lot of time when Eminem's featured on your track, he's going to beat you. I think Busta Rhymes and him are the one example where they both kind of met in the middle. But yeah, Jelly Roll kills it. Do you listen to Jelly Roll at all, Donovan? Like, is he a
Not
country
familiar.
star? Like, what is he?
I don't know if I've heard of that artist until
Yeah.
this album. Yeah.
Anyway, he's kind of gained popularity in the last year. He was at like a Detroit Lions halftime show. Like I've seen Jelly Roll around, but I hadn't really listened to his music. It's great. That song, it's like, I don't know if this album is about him having a relapse with drugs, but it's a song about his drug addiction and how it affected his life. And he's like, he apologizes to Haley, his first daughter. Like, he missed her guitar recitals. He said, "I'm sorry I don't love you as much as I love these pills." I thought that was pretty interesting. So it's like, my conclusion is that the first half of this album didn't have to exist. We already knew you said these horrible things. You didn't need to redo them. It was just like rage bait. And like, I saw a ton of people who were like fans of him that gave up midway through the album. Like, I don't want to listen to this. It's hate speech. It's stupid. It's rage bait. And then the back part is like super contrite and apologetic and like very much aware of his own mortality. So he's like talking about when they're lowering him into the coffin, play this song, like kind of thing. So I don't know if he's had a near-death experience recently or if he's had a relapse or something, but a lot of these songs seem to be a person who's still struggling with the after effects of an addiction to pain medicine. So that back half I think is good, but I don't think many people will make it to the back half if you listen to it from front to back. I have heard some people say that you're supposed to listen to it backwards, like the order in reverse, and it's better, but I don't think so. There are some songs like, I don't know, my brother's blind. I don't like him saying fuck blind people. He literally just says fuck blind people and deaf people too. And you're like, what the fuck? It's like so blatantly offensive. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even, there was like, I don't get it. I really don't. So it's like, we didn't need to see that again. We already knew that guy. You know what I mean? Like, we already knew Slim Shady. We didn't need to hear from him again. But I understand, like, just from an artist standpoint, he wanted to kill him. He is like, here's why Slim Shady died. I think is kind of because he got canceled, right? By Marshall Mathers. But it's like, dude, you are like, it's unfortunate because like the production on these tracks is great. Eminem works with great producers. Dre is on this album in a couple of tracks. And Eminem himself is a great producer and a wordsmith. So like his cadences are great. I'm not going to fault any of these songs for the quality of the production. It's the lyrics that I think like, I don't like it.
You think it sounds to me like he maybe was diagnosed with something like in real life and he's dealing with that. He just hasn't announced it yet. You know, maybe he has cancer. Maybe he has some kind of disease.
It's possible. I do think something had to have happened to like. This feels like the end. Like maybe there'll be Marshall Mathers songs or a single here and there, but he's like 50. I don't think he wants to beef with people anymore. Like there was this one song where everyone's like, "Oh my god, he called out Kendrick." I'm like, "No, he didn't." He said,
Yeah, I
"Let's
saw that.
jump." He said, "Let's jump into the mind of a hater." And then it's like he's giving the Twitter reply guy who knows everything about hip hop. That's who he's talking from the perspective of, and he actually disses himself in that lyric. So he didn't diss Kendrick Lamar. You'd have to be insane to do that right now. Even Eminem. That would be the best beef maybe ever.
You'd have to be,
but they wouldn't do that.
insane and squeaky clean to do it too. Like you'd have to have no.
Eminem has a lot of skeletons in his closet, which he just aired out in this album. Like I want to go back to Somebody Save Me. Like he did. It must be like a home movie or something. Like I guarantee that's going to get a video. By the way, out of all these, Somebody Save Me will get a music video. I'm calling that now. But it seems like he used actual home videos as samples. It's like his daughter Elena trying to wake him up when he's strung out. And you can hear it in his voice. He's like groggy. He's like, I'm going back to sleep. And she's like, just come eat. She's just trying to get him to eat a meal with her. So yeah, I think it's an interesting song. And it's the whole album builds up to that moment kind of thing. Where it's really just a message to his kids when he's gone. So like, great, maybe he is sick. Or maybe he had a brush with death. Or maybe he's just been thinking about death. But whatever it is, this is an album more for his family than it is for anyone else, I think. So yeah,
well, I
would not recommend it. In conclusion, I would not recommend buying it.
That's a solid review. I was a huge Eminem fan growing up as a kid. He was my favorite rapper for many years, well into my teens. So I'm sure I'll go pick through and listen to the songs that stuck out to people. But yeah, I mean, Eminem hasn't put out a great album in a little bit over 10 years at this point.
But like he did put out Monster with Juice World, right?
Yeah, I thought that song was fun. Or Godzilla was
Godzilla. Yeah, sorry, the Monster was the chorus of that song. But yeah, Monster was with Rihanna. Yeah, he hasn't done. And to your point, Greg, Houdini, the track you heard in your brother's car, it's fine.
That's what he said.
But like, it's like, but that's my point. Like, I don't think Eminem can do rage bait anymore. I think it's like go beyond that, do something new. But maybe that's
it.
Tough.
Maybe reinventing yourself is tough. It's tough.
Yeah, no, it is. But like, and that's I think why he's killing that character. It's like his kind of. But like, we didn't need this. We didn't need this thought experiment because we all know if you say things that were okay to say in society in 2003 and you say them now, people will be offended. You know?
Yeah, but it's like that's weird because you go further back, the same thing applies, right? Like if you go to 1950, 1920, like it's just times change, we evolve, things change. It's just what it is. We were talking about earlier in the show. This might just be an age thing, Donovan. You might just not understand. Like I don't understand this, therefore it's stupid. It's like it doesn't mean it's stupid. It means it's okay to say you don't understand something. It doesn't mean it's stupid. We were talking.
No, it's dumb. Like I think talking about having sex with Caitlyn Jenner 12 times in your album is stupid.
I have no idea. I've never heard the song.
No, it's just dumb. They're like throwaway lyrics that don't need to be there, is what I'm saying. Like they're offensive rage bait stuff to get you trending on Twitter. And he doesn't need to do any of that. You know what I mean? Like he's beyond that at this point. That's at least how I feel. And I think maybe that's how he feels now, but I would be shocked if we get another album from him. Like ever. I think we'll get like singles. You know what I was wondering though? Because like Eminem and Call of Duty, right? Peanut butter and jelly when it comes to trailers, right, Donovan?
Yeah, he's done a couple at least.
There is no fucking song on this album that would go with a COD trailer. None.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems strange to me because usually that he'll like cash in at least one song and like
a radio hit or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Activision would like the one where he says "fuck blind people." I don't know. Maybe that's the new COD trailer. But yeah,
controversy drives engagement. We talk about it all the time, right? Why not? Why people will be pissed? So great, they'll talk about it. You know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's fine. but yeah, I'm not telling anyone to buy it. You can listen to it for free on YouTube if you really want to mess around, but I would skip to Guilty Conscience 2 because they basically summarize the first half in Guilty Conscience 2 because it's an argument between Eminem or between Marshall and Shady. I do think it's kind of talent. It takes a different kind of talent to be able to have a conversation with yourself in rap. Like that's I think that he deserves credit. He does that a lot on this album, and it's excellently executed. But outside of that, no. And then I have a quick video review I could give you guys. I watched Receiver on Netflix.
Did you finish it? Or
yeah,
I don't even know.
Yeah, it's 8 episodes. They're about an hour long each. This is it's Peyton Manning's Omaha Productions and NFL Films worked together on this. So last year they did Quarterback, right? And that was Patrick Mahomes and Cousins
was in
and
there.
Was it Mariota, right?
Yeah, I think
this
so.
year, I'm a Lions fan now. And I've always been a Lions fan, but for a while I rooted for a team up in Cleveland too. But now I'm a Lions fan. So Amon-Ra St. Brown was one of the wide receivers picked for this. And it was him, Davante Adams, one of the best players for the Raiders. And also very interesting season for Davante Adams because, Jimmy Garoppolo was his quarterback and they traded away his best friend and all that stuff. So you got behind the scenes on all of that. And then they had Deebo Samuel and George Kittle from the 49ers. So I thought it was cool that they included a tight end. Also, George Kittle should have his own TV show. Dude is hilarious. The one thing that stuck out to me...
He definitely will one day.
Do you remember the game, Donovan? I don't know. There's so many games that happened this season, but they were playing... It was Niners at Vikings or Vikings at Niners. George Kittle got hit in the nuts. Like Harrison Smith headbutted George Kittle right in the dick. George Kittle spent the next 15 minutes on the field telling everybody that he was hit on the dick. He told the refs, he told the opposing players, every single play. It was just, I got hit in the dick. That was a dirty play. He hit me in the dick. Can you believe he hit me in the dick? He's like, he hit me in the dick. He said he hit me in the dick 30 times. And it's like a NFL film style supercut of that. And then it goes to the interview confessional after the season, and George Kittle goes, "Yeah, he hit me in the dick." This is so that scene was particularly hilarious. He's funny. You've watched Hard Knocks, right? So it's like
I have, yeah.
Those behind the scenes with the family episodes. It's a lot of that, right? So we get to see George's relationship with his I believe girlfriend or wife, and their dogs. And then you see Davante and his wife. It's funny. Davante has some kids in middle school or preschool, and he invited their daughter was having a birthday party, so they invited all the people from school. None of them knew because the last name's Adams. They didn't know that her dad was Davante Adams. So their house is this gorgeous mansion in Las Vegas, and everyone walks up and they're like, "Holy crap, I'm at Davante Adams' house." But it's just it's cool to see that guy behind the scenes. And also you get to see him on the sideline reacting to every time Jimmy Garoppolo misses him. And it's hilarious. He is so pissed. And
dude went from play with Aaron Rodgers to Jimmy G. That is rough.
But he came there specifically to play with his best friend from college, Derek Carr, who they traded.
Yeah.
So he was pissed going into the season, and then you give him Jimmy G, who had a broken foot, right? And then it's it was funny because Garoppolo gets pulled because he got hurt or something, and what the hell's his name? Brian Hoyer comes in.
God,
you know Hoyer?
That's the name. Yeah. He's been playing for generations.
He's 20 years in the league, journeyman. He's from Ohio. He comes in and he misses a throw. And he you see the next scene on the sidelines. He's super apologetic to Davante, and Davante's like, "Look, man, you had 0 reps in practice with me. It's not your fault." Because he saw how pissed at Jimmy G he was. He was like, "Please don't be mad at me," kind of thing. I thought that kind of behind the scenes footage was great, and you also get You get interviews with all the players leading up to the firing of Josh McDaniels. So that's a great story in this show that they capture perfectly. The other player in this was Justin Jefferson. So talk about a stacked lineup here, dude. You got Jefferson from the Vikings. You got Amon-Ra from the Lions. You got 2 of the Niners, right? So you have teams that made it far, right? Like the Niners made it to the Super Bowl. So this kind of leads me to my point. As a Lions fan, I was sad again because I had to.
You had to relive
They blew that
NFC
lead.
Championship.
They blew the lead, man. They
They had
had
that
it.
game in their hands, man. They had that game.
They really did. And
they pissed
and
it
I know
away.
Coach MCDC, he took a risk. Dan Campbell goes for it on 4th down.
Took a couple risks there, yeah.
Twice in that game. And that's the difference in that game. But you could argue they wouldn't have made it there if he didn't have that attitude all season. So,
and if they converted those, then he'd be the brilliant next Belichick, and people would be crowning him, and they'd have a Super Bowl and be a whole thing. So yeah.
But I really do. It's solid. It's really solid camera work, and I just think NFL Films does amazing work when it comes to documentaries of whatever.
And
I
love NFL Films.
They did it in a way where no one knew it was happening. Like this didn't leak. Everyone was expecting quarterback season 2, right? And instead we got receiver, which I think is kind of cool. He did this with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese in college. The girl who won it all for, was it South Carolina?
Yeah. So the Camila Cardoso.
Yeah. So he followed those 3 girls in college during the NCAA tournament this year, and they did a show for that. Yeah. So like Peyton's on fire, man. Peyton Manning, his next era as like a producer of video content, he is crushing it. He has a really good eye for who to work with. So I'm really curious, what do they do next season now? Is it going to be quarterback again?
Running back would be like the obvious one, the next like big skill position you could tap into.
I would love to see Derrick Henry for like a season. Like follow him in his first year in Baltimore. Like, that's a hell of a story. Or I don't know, give me the whole running back room in Miami. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would be interesting. But really well done. It's on Netflix. It's only 8 episodes. I highly recommend it. But
I'm gonna check that out.
Those are my 2 reviews.
I love NFL Films.
Well, I feel like I'm gonna be your sports culture and music culture roving correspondent.
We've got a NFL season coming up here. We can definitely brainstorm some stuff. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we can definitely cook some things up. All right, I don't think we're not running in any streams, so I can do a quick Twisters review. Unless I don't think somebody's like waiting for us to go offline right now. I watched the new Twisters movie last weekend. I watched it on my birthday. I went and saw it with my mom. We've bonded over disaster movies for my entire life. When I was like Day After Tomorrow, Independence Day,
Deep Blue Sea.
We love Deep Blue Sea. My mom, she loves even like, Deep Blue Sea is really good. Even like 2012, she loves any movie where like people are running from natural disasters and dying in mass. My mom loves those movies. So we went and saw Twisters this weekend, which was a sequel to the Twister. The first one was 90s, right? The original Twister.
It's so long ago, I don't know why they're even calling it a sequel.
Although I do like, I like that they just named it Twisters, plural, instead of Twister 2. Fun. I like when they do stuff like that with sequels. Which this one does not retain anybody from the first movie. I think Paul Scheer has a cameo at the end, and that's it. He's like the only person who appears in both. Obviously, Bill Paxton has passed on, and they don't bring back anybody else from the original Twister film. But there are a lot of homages to it. This one stars Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell, who are like just 2 deeply charismatic young actors. Glenn Powell's in everything. He was in Top Gun Maverick. He was great in that. He just did the rom-com with Sydney Sweeney, Anyone But You. He was in Hitman on Netflix this year, which Greg and I reviewed on this channel. I like that movie a lot. I know Greg and Nicole were a bit cooler on it. But he's like, essentially, Glenn Powell's character is like a country. He's like a YouTuber. He's got this channel where they're just like the country redneck, like storm chasers. They're just like, we're driving into the middle of the storm and just like bolting our vehicle to the ground and then just filming it. Whereas Daisy Edgar Jones' character kind of comes from like, she studied climate in college and she's working with this company that's like trying to study tornado patterns and whatnot. And they're all buttoned up in corporate. and they kind of just like butt heads, right? Because they're on the scenes together. Uh, they're competing to cover these storms, and they kind of get into like the politics of like extreme weather chasing and what the corporation's really up to and all that, and then what drives people to these things, which I thought was really interesting, where they talk about like their backstory with natural disasters and like why people are drawn to phenomena like this. Because obviously, you should run as far away from tornadoes as you can whenever they appear. You should flee. Should never go towards them. But there is like this subset of people who just run towards them. They drive there. They risk their lives to get within like meters or yards of a tornado, which I thought was a very interesting angle that this movie takes psychologically. I think that their set pieces are all really well paced. They get really hung up in the science of it all, which Greg, I think you would like this movie because you like when movies get deep into the like
Yeah, I
the
think that's
lore and the
fun.
weeds
If
of
it's
it.
true, if it's
Yeah,
real, yeah, I think it's fun. Yeah, if
Yeah.
it actually makes sense. Yeah, I think it's great.
that that definitely remains to be seen. Some of the stuff they were saying, I was like, I don't know if that makes
I don't
sense.
know enough
but
about that
they,
that area of
me neither.
education to make an
Yeah, no,
estimate.
Clearly,
me
it's my
neither.
area of expertise. I report on the weather every day.
Yeah, hey, you could do one hell of a weather report walking through the eye of a storm, but you would like
God,
the
no.
Greg. They get deep into the the meteorology of tornadoes and
Sure.
their behaviors and what causes them, how they go away,
All
the
I
different
know
like
is that we don't have them out
categories.
here because the mountains stop the winds from reaching that velocity to do it. So in California, we
Yeah.
don't have them because the
Yeah.
mountains stop. That's the only thing I know
Well,
about them.
I also live
Mhm.
on a hill, Greg, so we don't really get them here. But 3 miles west of my house is like Tornado Alley.
Yeah, it
'cause
has to
it's
be
very
flat. It has to be completely flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this movie primarily takes place in Oklahoma, so there's
Yeah.
your Tulsa King tie-in. But no, there's like a scene where there's a tornado that they're chasing, and they're being laid back with it because they're like, "Oh, this is like an E1, E2 like storm. We're just gonna go and get some data." And then like they realize, so like, "Oh shit, this is like an E5." And there's like that moment where like, "Oh, we're fucked. Like this thing is like ripping like light posts out of the ground. We got to get the hell out of here." So all the action set pieces I thought were really well done. The story, there's like dialogue and stuff in this movie where it's very much like classic Hollywood blockbuster where the characters are just like saying things that human beings don't say to each other, and they're talking like self-help books and stuff. It gets a little corny. And my little
Is
like
is there
letterbox.
like
What was
is there like a shoved he likes her, she likes him thing?
Yeah, they're doing like a little like weird romance thing there. Also, the soundtrack, this movie is like very country, and I'm not a big country music person, but I thought it worked for me. But
Yeah.
they do a thing in this movie where like the soundtrack is like overbearingly like narrating every scene in the movie. So there's like the scene where she's like torn between being an Oklahoma girl and moving to the big city, and then they just play the song like "You Can't Take the Home Out of Oklahoma" for like 3 minutes. I'm just like, yeah, I was like, I get it. They they do that a
Two
few
on the nose.
times.
Two on the
Yeah, or like
nose.
when Glenn Powell shows up, it's like, I'm a big country boy. I don't give a shit about anything. So they do that a few times where it just feels very like
WWE.
very very generic Hollywood movie making. But
Mhm.
I think getting past all that stuff, it is a fun blockbuster. It feels like the kind of blockbuster you don't really get anymore, where it's
Yeah.
just like they just prioritize being entertaining over everything. And a lot of other things in the movie do suffer because of that. But it's entertaining as hell. It's fun. I just the beginning, middle, and end of this movie all have very memorable set pieces that watching, I was like, oh shit, it's getting real.
Did I see
Which I
them
thought was great.
deploy a bunch of drones?
You sure did. Yeah. So that was a part of a scene where they're trying to like study the patterns of the tornadoes because they're like essentially God, what was the science they were trying to do? Because they're like, we know it causes tornadoes, but we only know so much about them because obviously we can't stand in a tornado and observe it like we can like a thunderstorm or
That's
whatever.
literally what the first
Or it's
movie
li-
was. That was the first movie.
Yeah.
They
So
literally were like,
they're-
we can't stand it. We have Dorothy. Dorothy will solve all their problems. It looks like they have it here too, but is it a sequel or is it just a reimagining of the original movie?
No, I mean it just takes place like modern
sequel.
day. It's it's tough because it's not like the characters aren't coming back. They're not doing like a Force Awakens Scream thing where like the original characters are like showing up in the third act. Like this is a whole new cast. Like I said, there's like the Paul Scheer cameo, but that's
Okay.
just a
Because
funny
in the original movie,
laugh at
like
the end
the
of the
whole thing
movie.
was to get Dorothy to work, and when it worked, then they could find out how tornadoes were formed and give people hours before the warning.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's like a soft reboot. I'm guessing then, because that's the same.
Yeah,
it sounds
it's
like
more
the
of a
same plot.
spiritual. it's like a spiritual successor sequel. It's another movie of people doing similar things, right? Just more modernized, obviously, because it's 2024, so the tech is a bit more sophisticated. The just what we know about meteorology is a bit more sophisticated than it was 30 years ago. But yeah, it's definitely not like you need to watch Twister before you go see Twisters. Definitely
Well, people don't
not
like
one of
homework,
those
and I can agree with that. Homework is bad,
situations.
especially for a movie that's like over 20 years old.
Not, not yet, not for Twisters. You don't need to be doing homework for your natural disaster
Nicole loves
movies.
disaster movies, but she doesn't like the
Oh, does she?
chemistry. She doesn't like the chemistry between the two main actors, so she checked out.
Wait, in this one?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I feel like Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell in this movie are like the reason to go see it. As somebody who I love a good charismatic performance, they're two very charming people. Daisy Edgar Jones did a movie on Hulu called Fresh a couple years ago with Bucky from the Marvel movies. Great, she's a great young actress. Glenn Powell's awesome too. They have a lot of scenes in this movie where it's just them in like a barn talking about country versus city living, and it's like on paper this should be a bad scene, but they're just great. They're really good in it.
Do you guys want to hear some
I like
actual
them a lot.
tornado data
Uh-oh.
that supports
Well,
why
yeah.
this is a good time for this film to come out? I
They're
live
getting
here in
worse, right?
Ohio. Yeah, I live here in Ohio. We have had 63 tornadoes touch down this year in the first
Mhm.
half of the year. That's
Yeah.
more than the all-time high in a year. It was
Yeah.
1992. 62 was the previous all-time high. It's only half a year, and we've had 63.
Global warming's a bitch, ain't it? That's just
Because that's the thing about global climate change, Greg. Everyone likes to talk about temperature, but ideally, you know what the real measurement of change is? It's wind speeds. And you can go anywhere on Earth right now. Winds are faster than they used to be. We get like, I don't know, Donovan, like when you get storms, are you getting like hurricane force winds sometimes, like 60-mile-an-hour gusts?
Occasionally, last year we had really bad winds, and I like went and stood in the lobby of my apartment for 30 minutes, and I was like, "This might be it." But not too typically. But in
this might
storm
be
season,
it.
it does get pretty gnarly. Dude, I live in the third floor of my
I
apartment,
know.
and they send a notification. They're like, "Go to the
Yeah,
basement
the
or a
basement.
bathroom."
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I'm not gonna sit in a bathtub on the third floor of an apartment building. I'm cooked if this building goes up.
Yeah, the
So
mirror is just going to chop you up into pieces when it
yeah.
breaks.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
So I just went and stood in the lobby and watched as all the trees lean sideways for 25 minutes. And luckily, a
So
tornado didn't come. But yeah.
I think the weekend that this movie came out, there was a super tornado that hit Chicago, and it spread into like 16 tornadoes. So like a tornado touched down at O'Hare Airport like the night before this movie came out, and I was like, wow,
Mhm.
that's like just it's
Yeah.
pretty on the nose. I hope they address the climate change aspect in this film.
They don't. In fact, the director
They
got scrutiny because he came out and said there's nothing climate change in this movie. It's not mentioned once, and he said movies shouldn't have a message. I was like, what an idiot. Like,
That's dumb.
they do not talk about climate change in this movie or like global warming, and it has been a point of contention because I've seen people say that there was climate change stuff that got cut, that it was like a studio thing, and WB was like, "Get that
Oh,
out of
this is
here."
WB?
This is a Warner Brothers movie, Warner Brothers
Oh,
Pictures,
it's just a
but
miracle it even came out.
it's also Amblin, which is interesting because it's which is Steven Spielberg, who had also had his hands all over this, and
yeah,
he was somebody who had some decision making at the top as well, with
Mm.
like things that they do and don't. And there's parts of like the romance in this movie that like apparently Steven Spielberg was involved in, where he was like, "Don't have them kiss and don't do this and blah blah blah." There's a lot of strange things happening to this movie on a corporate level, but I do think it's still good. I do that is a criticism I had of it. I was like, man, this would have been a good movie to be like, damn, climate change really sucks. But they don't do that. They're
they
kind of
don't
just
do it
like
at all.
tornadoes
Yeah,
suck. They're kind of just like tornadoes suck, and you should run from them if they're coming to your town.
So either the data point I
Yeah.
just gave you is either a gross outlier or it's evidence that wind speeds are increasing across the country. Because like we're
Mhm.
seeing more tornadoes, we're seeing them touch down in different places. I mean, just look at the last 20 years here in America. We had a hurricane hit New York City,
Mhm.
and then it turned into a blizzard. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Sandy, right? Like we have these named storms that are like destroying cities.
Yeah.
We've seen Miami flood multiple times. We saw what happened in New Orleans during Katrina. We saw what happened in Houston right after Katrina with Rita.
Mhm.
Like Hurricane Allison or Tropical Storm Allison that destroyed Houston. Like
Mhm.
it's the frequency of these events that I think needs to be noted by media more often, and they're not.
Yeah.
And that's I don't expect a blockbuster film to go in depth in that, but it would have been nice to have, like, if you're going to talk about the meteorology of this, like, to at
Yeah,
least
because they're
mention
already
it.
there was my thing. Like, if they didn't go so deep into the weather science, I wouldn't have cared. But the fact they deliberately are like, meteorology, here's the science behind tornadoes, that it felt like you were teeing it
Yeah,
up. They do have some commentary about like corporations and stuff. There's an interesting subplot about how like a lot of corporations who do have money and resources to help people who are like affected by natural disasters like tornadoes, how they just don't, and how they seek to further their own portfolios in like the wake of disasters, which I thought was
like
pretty interesting.
insurance companies, for instance, are
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right in here. Yeah, which I thought that was pretty good. um
that's
Yeah,
cool.
there's another point about this. Oh, there's a the movie's also really funny. Last thing I'll mention, there's a character, a side character in this movie who's British, and his whole story is that he's like, I forget what outlet he's from, like the BBC or something, and he's like in Oklahoma to like study and do like a feature article about like storm chasers. So they keep like bringing him along on these chases, and he's just like in over his head. He's like vomiting after the chases, like driving to it. They're like, "Buckle up!" I forget his name, and he's like in the back, like fumbling with his seatbelt, like shaking, trying to get it on. You those dudes like scared shitless as everyone else is like yeehaw and driving into the storm, which he was very funny. I thought
Nice.
his character was quite hilarious in this. But Twisters, it's a solid like 7 out of 10 blockbuster. It's a fun time for like an hour and 45 minutes. It's a good
You
one to
have
toss in, I say, when it comes to streaming.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, you have not convinced me to go to the movie theater for this,
Mm.
but
Not unless
if it
you go
comes,
to see it in have you seen all the stuff about this movie in 4DX, where this movie has like broken records for ticket sales in 4DX, which
what
is
do they have,
like,
like the fans on the seats or something?
oh, 4DX is the one where your seats like move.
Oh,
It's the ones where like it's like a theme park seat where the seats will move and twist, and they will do like air and like squirt you with like water and shit.
yeah, I don't want
But
any of
people
that.
people have been saying it's like a meme, but also like the movie has sold more tickets in 4DX than anything. People are like, everyone clapped at the end of my Twister screening in 4DX because we all survived, shit like that. So
Oh, good lord. Yeah,
It
that's
did
something
very
I
well.
would
It
do.
did very well opening weekend. It did better than
Oh,
Ghostbusters, which is like,
It
yeah,
did 80 million. This movie overperformed. Yeah, yeah,
it's on
at
track
the
for 200
box
million
office.
already. And it's only been out for a few weeks.
I think it's coming at a good time because right now is like we're in the heart of tornado season, but also
Yeah,
like it feels like we haven't had many disaster movies like we've seen like Godzilla movies, but we haven't seen
yeah,
like
yeah. We're due for a
natural
good like
disaster. Yeah,
classic, yeah, just disaster movie. And people like Twister. It's a beloved disaster movie. So yeah, I wasn't surprised to see it's doing well, but it's a good movie. I like it. As a disaster movie fan, I was into Twisters.
I will watch it
Um,
on HBO Max. Is
it
that what
should
it's
be
called?
on Max.
Yeah,
You would presume it'll be on Max, but who
I'll
knows
watch it
with the way
there.
they do
It's yeah,
deals
it
and
was
stuff.
Universal and Warner
Is it?
Brothers didn't want to pay for it. They split the cost. It sounds like 100
Oh,
million
that's
each
right.
because it was
It's Universal as well. Yeah,
yeah. I
Universal
think
went
they
over
split the
balls with this
cost. I think
movie.
there was 100
So
million
David
each.
Zaslav is hurting for cash, is what you're telling me. He couldn't even fund
No,
Twisters.
well, like $200 million for a Twister movie. Clearly, that's like all. That's all the digital effects. Like that's all effects budget. Like they didn't have like
Oh,
they
yeah.
have some. They have some. I mean, not I'm gonna say nobody's a cast, but like their headliner, I wouldn't argue. I don't know. Like, is he a household name? I'd never even heard of him before
He
Glenn
is
this.
Powell's
now.
getting up there.
Yeah,
He's
he
up
is.
there. Glenn
Okay,
Powell's
so
pretty
like
big.
After that rom
Mhm.
com with Sydney Sweeney, he's kind of
Anyone
like,
but you.
yeah,
Yeah, he's a Top Gun Maverick. He's getting pretty big, but
yeah. He's had a couple of Top Gun, and then he's in a movie with Sydney Sweeney. So
living the
she's
life.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
She had to
what else?
come out and say that they're not together because everyone's like they had such good chemistry on film. She's like, I have a boyfriend, and it's not Glenn Powell. Like,
Mhm.
please stop
Did
saying
you
that.
see that bit though on SNL where she was like saying that in her monologue? She was like, "I have a
Yeah.
loving like fiance or whatever." Like, let's cut to him in the audience, and it's just Glenn Powell sitting in the audience.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, of
I thought
course
that
they
was
made a
it.
joke out of it, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah, Greg, he's not
He was-
like he's not hitting Clooney numbers yet, but I'm sure he's making over 10 a movie easily.
you could
Well,
say
the joke is that Tom Cruise is vetting him to like invade his soul once he's too old to do movies because he was in Top Gun Maverick, but then Tom Cruise is like at the Twisters premiere, like I'm here to support my guy, and they're gonna do another Top Gun movie and blah blah blah. People like Tom Cruise like vetting this dude to like
He's
be
gonna
his
be the next
vessel.
he's gonna
Yeah,
be Mission Impossible guy, and yeah, okay,
yeah,
I could see
exactly.
that. I
Uh,
still haven't seen that last Top Gun movie. but whatever.
You could
I
say
need to see
it
it too.
blew the competition away. Does that feel...
Don't make me
Wow.
pull out the Celine
The
Dion
silence
fart
says
music.
it all.
Wow. If there was ever a way to end the show, or a reason, I should say, to
Forever.
to end the show.
Actually, we have breaking news
yeah.
out of Ohio, Asif.
What?
Breaking
Uh-oh.
news.
No.
Chicken wings advertised as boneless can have bones. Ohio Supreme Court decides. I love our
What's the point
priorities
of
in this
having-
country. That was super important. We needed that ruling.
They made the wrong call. What are those guys even doing over there?
That's also like boneless. What are we doing? Do you fuck with boneless wings, Donovan?
I love boneless wings.
Oh,
Greg, do you
it's a generational thing, I guess.
They're
Greg, do you eat
convenient. They're
boneless?
convenient. I don't get my hands dirty. I just use a little fork and I dip them in the sauce, and I'm like,
They're just
do you eat
tendies at
boneless?
that point, though.
I'll eat tendies too.
Yeah, but
I'm
like,
not-
so
I'm not
why don't you just call them
discriminating.
tenders? Why do they have to be boneless wings? Just call them tenders.
Because they're wings.
Like, are they actually? Here's the question: are they deboning these things,
No,
or are they just processed chicken made to be looking like a wing?
they're nugs. They're nugs. They're chicken nugs.
They're just glorified chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
I don't get
I
it.
think so. I just
Advertised
this
as
is the
boneless
hard
can
hitting
have
things in
bones?
our country that I'm glad we're tackling. Not global
Yeah, why even
warming.
call them wings? Lucci's dead right in the chat. What's up, Lucci? I think he was commenting on my mug. He said that this was huge. Is this huge?
California.
It's a decently sized mug.
Yeah, it is pretty big.
Mhm.
It's got green tea in it.
Like the state. Like my state's very long.
But yeah,
We
like,
don't have tornadoes. We just have earthquakes and fires.
sure
Mainly
you have
fires.
tornadoes. You have
In
tornadoes.
California?
Dude, there's a part of California that's flat. You may not see it because you don't go inland more than 10 miles, but like there is a part of California that's flat as shit, dude.
Anything
and
that's
I'm sure
like, our state's not very wide, so anything across the 60-mile mark is just a barren wasteland to us. There's just
that's
nothing
what I'm
there.
talking about. That barren wasteland, you know, like Bakerfield or whatever, Bakersfield, like over that way.
Nokoma's got a job in Bakersfield.
That would have sucked. I can't think of a worse place in California to live. It's like 120 degrees there. It's so hot that they have those misters outside of stores because people just fall over and die.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad area, bad crime rate. They don't have enough money to keep their school, police, or firemen.
They got
paid.
dust
It's very
storms
bad.
going on.
They got a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on there. They need to figure out because it's agriculture is what their primary thing is. But there's a drought. There's been a drought for like the last 10 years, I guess. So like it's just bad. Everything's bad there.
But my point is, Greg, yes, there aren't tornadoes in the mountainous parts and the hilly parts of California near the coast, but there's definitely tornadoes in the eastern part of California. But yeah, maybe not as much as you'd see in the plain states. Or like, I don't know what Chicago did to deserve it, but like they get hit by tornadoes a lot in Illinois. And it started to happen. Like I said, we've had a record amount of tornadoes here in Ohio this year. And it's like, they're close to me. They're like 3 miles that way. It's like, there've been times where I like looked out my window and I could see it. I was like, yep, there it is. It's just trucking. Yeah, it's scary shit. But yeah, I'll watch that movie, Donovan. That seems like a good, just turn your brain off and watch.
Yeah, I enjoyed it quite
time.
a bit. I'm sure I will rewatch it at some point when it's available on home
That's
video.
cool. Like you and your mom have that. Like that's like your thing. Me and my brother, we watch shitty movies together, or like movies that people say suck. So like, we watched Undercover Brother.
Armageddon.
We saw Undercover Brother together. I don't know if you remember that.
I love that movie.
I didn't see it, but
it's actually quite good.
I love that
we watched the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie together, and that was hilarious because like there were parents with their kids there, and the first song, it's like if you've seen the movie, the first song super offensive. Everyone who was there with their parents left before the end of that song. So it was like me, my brother, and like 2 other people in the theater watching Aqua Teen Hunger Force. But yeah, we watch crappy movies together. Yeah, Lamageddon. Draft Day. You know.
Lucci,
that's like
so
the
it seems
South
like a good
Park
movie to watch
movie.
in
I
background.
remember we left this. My parents made us leave the South Park movie when. Because the opening
Kyle's
song
mom.
is the whole, which is the catalyst for the whole movie, which is hilarious.
Canada?
The
Kyle's
Shut Your
mom?
Effing Face, Uncle Effer, that one.
Oh, Uncle, yeah.
Yeah,
I forgot
people were walking out, and we were one of the people who were walking out.
Damn.
My parents just dropped me and my friend off at the movie, and we stayed there and had a great time.
That's what people do in our
Yeah.
theater too, but they do them in like large groups of like 15 kids, so it's
Oh, yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, no. I don't know what's
Yeah.
gonna get me to the movie theater because I didn't even go for Across the Spider-Verse. So the last time I
You'll
went
go
was
for sequel to the Mario Brothers movie.
Mario
That'll be out.
2, so 2026.
No,
So the
there you
next
go.
time I'm gonna go to the movie theater. And I'll rent it
Yeah.
out again because it is the saddest Regal cinema on the side of a highway that no one knows how to get to. So, but I will keep supporting my local cinemas once
There you
every
go.
4 years.
Beautiful. And I think with that, we can go ahead and wrap here this special episode of Pop Goes the Culture, episode 137.
Wow.
That was a good one. I believe we'll be back next week. I'm not traveling next week. Greg, are you here next Thursday?
Yes. I
You
don't go
think so?
anywhere
It'll
until
be
PAX.
okay, sweet. Yeah, so it'll be like I think it's
That's
August
weird.
1st. Is our
That's
next
weird, Greg. You actually get to
episode.
like chill at home for a
I'm
bit.
usually in San Diego right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. It is nice.
Enjoy it.
Well,
Enjoy
you know.
enjoy being home team.
There is no away team at Comic-Con this year.
Yeah, no team. This is the only team.
Yeah.
But I'm
I
sure
guess
we'll
the
probably
SAG-AFTRA people are going to do their panels that they already agreed to. They're just
They are,
not,
yes. I saw that pop up here.
I saw Erica tweet about that, but yeah.
Which
that,
makes sense, I suppose. Probably too late to plot.
I'm sure you guys will talk about it again next week because that's not going away.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about that, and then probably all the Comic-Con just stuff in general. I'm sure will be our entire show next week, so that'll be a good one. Come back for it, folks, and as always, follow the stream, hit the notification bell, join the official Shacknews Discord. I'll drop the command in there one more time. I know I did it earlier, and follow us on socials. We're on all the platforms. Greg talked about his his YouTube hustle earlier, and how he's very deep in the mines, perhaps as deep as he's ever been over there in the video mines, making things happen. But until next week, I'm Donovan. That is Greg. That is also Asif. We'll see you guys next time for Pop Goes the Culture. Peace out.
Bye.